analogy made. I love her points because that's what my marine was singing.
that like he was upset that it was like passive aggressive. I don't see how that's passive aggressive. If I talked to you about it, we laughed about it, and I also went with you to go retrieve your things when he lost it. So like I was totally confused that in his interviews he was saying I was passive aggressive because I just didn't get that. I'm like, how if I told you less than 24 hours my feelings?
This is making a lot more sense now because the way that it was edited, you're right. It sort of seemed like, is this it? You know what I mean? Like, was this comment the only thing? Like, and it's like, of course, I uplift women in their rights and wrong. So I was like, either way, whatever, she's right. Like that comment would be enough for me anyway.
Hey, listen, I can't lie to you. I didn't even know I was going to make that certain clip. I didn't even realize. I actually was just putting any clip there. But I think this is a powerful thing because I wanted to mention this. First and foremost, before I break down this interview myself, Sean, I'm sure some others want to join us a little bit later as well. I want to say this first and foremost. When an interviewer tells you they back women's rights and wrongs, just know that interview is not going to be a fair interview. Doesn't matter what that man says. He can die and she won't care. You'll be like, well, it was because of him. Right? So as soon as I heard that, I already knew this interview was not going to go into any fair basis of even trying to challenge anything Karla said. Karla could be a criminal. And she'd be like, well, the circumstance of your life, a man was the reason why you're as a criminal. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as I heard that, when someone makes that kind of comment, and I've heard it before, so I already know, usually they back women, and I'm not mad at it. Listen, hey, I think it gave me a bit more understanding as to why she has an angle, the way she comes at something, which is fair. It's her channel, it's her platform. I can't be hating on it. But if I'm going to review it, I'm going to review it for that lens too, which is that anything that Karla says now, you're not going to challenge it. You're going to find a way to make it make sense, whether it makes sense or not make sense. But here's my thoughts. After watching this interview, really, really quickly, I won't go too much into it. After watching this interview, I had more questions for Juan. Okay, I did. I had more questions for Juan. I'm like, okay, Juan, for instance, the situation with the job situation. Why did you not let us know, and I'm talking about us, because you did a video after, why did you not let us know that she told you previously? Now, that isn't a lie by omission, okay? All right? So in that instance, you and I are going to be held accountable, okay? Because you could have told us this after the show. The show put it as it did, but if she's correct in what she's saying, then why didn't you tell us that she told you before she did this the job situation, and then you helped her move the job? Now I can understand that maybe it doesn't stop how you may have felt, that she may have still felt unstable. That doesn't stop that, but you didn't tell us that story. That's the whole point. So you do have to be accountable for that, right? Irrespective, because that puts a narrative on her that doesn't need to be put there. I still feel the way I do, but I'm saying you still have to be accountable for that now. We have to hold you to the plate. And I think the second thing also was around the house situation, which she mentioned as well, about her moving out and she could have moved to another place as well, which I think is very important. I think he could have given us a bit more knowledge around that area, right, Juan, rather than tell it in a particular way, which I get. Again, you could have still had the end result, which is she told me she was going to move out. She told me the reason why she did this because she wanted to, her lease was up and this and that. But I still felt like it was unstable. He could have still said those things. But because he did not say that, and it's an admittance of that, it puts a limelight on Karla, which I can always be open about and say that's where we got to hold one accountable, that you are trying to stay squeaky clean. And at that point, when you try to stay squeaky clean, yeah, we have to look at you much more. You can't be too clean now. What that means is in a sense of you can't make the other person just an absolute bad person. And I don't even say bad person because that's the wrong wording. You can't make it as, I get that you were giving your perspective on why you didn't want to marry. That's what he said. He never said she was a bad person. He said the reason why he didn't want to marry her is because of these particular things. But when you say it, say the whole context of the situation, right? Say the whole context of the situation. Because if you don't, when we go back and we find out her story, she's going to say certain things. And then it's going to expose you. Now you look like a liar. And whether it's a lie by omission, whether it's a lie, outright lie, makes no difference. It's a lie at the end of the day. So one has to be accountable for that particular aspect. I will say, according to the end of this interview, by the time this interview ended, there are some things of how I felt about Karla. It's still the same way. I'm sorry. If you are out here and you have to take smoke, pot, weed, whatever you call it, to make it through the show, sis, I'm so sorry. We can't hold that. We can't say that's okay. We can't say that's normal. I'm so sorry. Anybody out there, I love you, Carlians, but I'm going to be very honest with you. Okay, Juan, yes, let's call him a liar. Let's call him a mitten of that. But let's be very honest and frank about Karla. Okay, let's be very frank and honest about Karla. Okay, all right. So, yeah, my thing for me personally. But other than that, again, I think this is a case of, like I said, I saw Karla being hurt at the reunion. I think she really wanted to make this work. Unfortunately, Wang couldn't do that. One thing I would challenge her on, she was not blindsided. She needs to stop that. She was not blindsided. For instance, when she mentioned a conversation about passive aggressive, they had that on camera. He spoke to you about your passive aggressiveness, and we saw your passive aggressiveness. You were passive aggressive. You know what I mean? You don't take someone's bag to because you're annoyed at what they did. Yes, you're being passive aggressive. There's nothing else to it, sis. And he told you that. You had a whole conversation on the bed. I remember the actual conversation on the bed. So you weren't blindsided by that. The crystals aspect, you were not blindsided by that because he told you about that, right? He told you about that. And I actually did a whole video going back through all the points he made after the show. And I went and did a whole video on it. And I put all the clips in all the things that he actually said. I said, oh, it was actually, because I was the first one that I said, I was like, they must have been hiding stuff because how come we didn't know about this stuff? But when I went back, I realized most of the episodes, I wasn't paying attention to them. They're boring to me. I focus on everybody else. So I skipped past their parts. So I went back to rewatch it because I got a bit of time on my hands to watch it and then get the clips. So I realized he did say a lot of those things. That is why by the end, when they're talking to the experts, she cannot say she was blindsided about the spiritual aspect because they spoke about the spiritual aspect. So here's my thing. I'm not going to call her a liar because I don't think she was lying. I think she felt blindsided. Doesn't mean that she actually was blindsided. How you feel is not what actually happened. You know what I'm saying to you? You can feel how you feel. So I don't want to call her a liar. I want to say that she felt how she felt. You know what I'm saying to you? So it's an interesting one. And I'm sure we'll have different opinions today. I'm going to get Sean on as well. We'll have different opinions, I'm sure, going forward in the conversation. But I think it was a good interview. I think I got more of her understanding her perspective on where she was actually coming from. You know what I'm saying too? So, you know, I can take back the Dusty thing. You know, I've been a bit facetious, but I can take it back. I don't think she necessarily is Dusty. You know what I'm saying too? You know, I think she's somebody who is a very astute person. She got her own business. She's just not planned. She's not very organized. That's what I was to say, right? Which can make it a little bit unstable, can feel unstable for someone else. And in that aspect, but I wouldn't say she's a Dusty. I'll take that back. You know what I mean? Like, let's leave that. Like, she ain't a Dusty. She ain't stolen nobody's money. You know what I mean? I'm being facetious, and I can take that back. But let's have that conversation about this interview. We'll play some clips as well. I mean, we'll play the interview and just play it through. But I'll get Sean on as well, so we can have a conversation as well. All right. So if you're here, like, share, subscribe, click on that wonderful bell button for notification of the uploads. I know you've been waiting for this one, so we're gonna break it all the way down. Let me get Sean on. Yes, brother Sean.
What's up, brother?
Yes, brother. You're right.
I'm good, bro. You?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, man. What's your thoughts, man? This Karla interview, you know what I'm saying to you, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was glad to hear, you know, Karla's perspective because, you know, Juan has been out here yapping quite a bit. So, you know, I was glad to hear her perspective, hear her take. You know, nothing really changed, you know, for me in watching the interview. I just got a little bit more clarity on some things because, you know, for the bulk of the season, a lot of what she said is what some of us have seen in her, right? So I think it gave clarity, you know, to the situation, the dynamics between them. You know, I often think the person sometimes that is doing the most talking, trying to control a narrative, isn't a lot of times trying to hide something or trying to make sure that they're seen in a very particular light. And that's what I think about Juan. I do want to be very, very clear as we kind of start this conversation. Like anything that we debate or talk about tonight, I don't think Juan should want Karla if he doesn't want Karla, you know? So that has never been my stance. You know, it just still surprises me how folks, especially in the after comments, get so incensed and, you know, they get so dug into, you know, whatever my POV being different than yours and some of the other people on the panel means that I want them to want Karla or I have to want Karla. It's not about that. It was about calling Juan out, about saying that Juan really wasn't here for the process. And it just showed more and more after the thing. And look, people get on maps all the time and they don't really want to do the process for one particular reason or the other. And we just been watching this show for so long, and he was somebody that struck me as somebody that really just didn't want to be married. He kind of wanted to go along to get along. But you know, he wasn't a horrible person, you know, but he was just somebody that just wanted to control the narrative. And that's why he was so defensive as soon as somebody called him out, because he was like, oh my God, they see me, or this image that I have of myself, they're not buying it. So now I have to go double down and defend myself. So, you know, those are my thoughts about him. And, you know, as we get through each clip, I'll kind of, you know, obviously give my feedback too.
Yeah, to be honest, I think we'll actually agree more than we actually disagree. Because as much as we disagree on the panels are a bit of entertainment for me. So I do like to push a bit more than I actually will believe that point of view. I do actually think we'll agree more because I do think there are some things that Juan has done, which I think we agree. I think definitely agree in this part, which is usually the first responder usually has something that's going on. You know what I mean? Like there's usually, from what we have seen in the past few years, the first responder who kind of says something a bit wild does usually have some aspect where they're trying to hide something. And I think obviously Karla coming out and saying, obviously, I don't want to say like, well, I mean, there's some things that have been said which obviously are private for them, but aside that, sometimes when people are trying to get ahead of the devil, as we say, in certain aspects, right, and trying to present a particular idea when it comes to it. So I think we're going to probably agree a lot more than usual, because I think panels are a little bit. We all like to have a bit of our stance and dig a bit deeper. But I think when we're solo, we can see eye to eye on a lot of things. We might see it slightly differently, but I think we'll definitely have some adjacent opinions on this as well. Let's start from the very beginning, because I think we'll put it on the screen so they can actually see it as well. In fact, let me make it smaller. They don't have to put it right in there. We can put it right there so they can see it. Let's go a bit further back. I'm trying to even think where should we start from. Okay, we'll start from here and then play it from here.
The matchmakers, I think they did a great job matching Juan and I. I think based off of like who we are individually, I can totally see why it makes sense. But getting to know him and the way his mind operates, that's where I'm like, okay, there's some differences.
Is it a misconception for viewers at home that the experts are the matchmakers? Are they two separate roles? Are there matchmakers and then the experts who come in to help you guys through the process?
I feel like I've seen the same matchmakers since the very beginning, like the experts as matchmakers. Whether they're actually behind the scenes choosing us, I would have no awareness of that. But from what I know, it's the experts who are matchmaking us.
Right. And that's what we picture at home. Were there any qualities that you had asked the experts for that you feel like your match did not have?
You know what? I didn't have a laundry list of like what I wanted in a partner. I think I just wanted like the basics, like loyalty, someone who's a go-getter, someone who sees life in a positive light, someone who wants to grow, someone who's physically fit. So I think just, what I see myself doing in an everyday life, in my everyday life, I don't think I was really like nitpicky at all with who I wanted to be matched with. I kept an open mind. I wanted to see you fill out the paperwork and you fill out like tons of questionnaires. You meet with the experts. So I just kind of trusted more so what they would see for me.
It's interesting, and we'll get here later in the interview, but it's interesting because I also describe you as a go-getter, entrepreneur. You're on your grind. But it's interesting to see the edit that you were given throughout this series. And not only that, but, and you can correct me if you didn't feel this way, but sort of the way Juan either talked to you or about you.
Oh yeah, I totally see that. But I mean, I kind of understand why I got the edit that I did, because it would be fucking boring if they didn't put in like my kooky side. Like, based off of just watching it myself, if they didn't show those aspects of me, we would have just been talking about business the entire time.
I can't wait to dive.
Let's talk about this part, because I think this is one of the things that was obviously prevalent in the conversations that we had. What was your thoughts around this? Because it's about the edit and it's about whether she is quote unquote kooky, if you want to call it that. What was your kind of viewpoint on this particular aspect?
One thing that we kind of look at, and it caught me right away, is we always look for that accountability, right? We want to see somebody taking accountability. And I did like the fact that she did take accountability for one, how she showed up. And she didn't I like when people just don't make excuses. And she didn't make excuses. She was like, hey, listen, it is what it is. I see why they highlighted it. I understand it. And, it is what it is. And it also she threw a little dig at him too, because it would be boring, if they just showed the totality of our relationship. So I kind of like that she was honest about aspects of her.
Yeah, I think we might slightly disagree. So I agree that she took a little bit of accountability. No. Do you know? Let me make it clear what I'm saying. I was wanting. This is me personally. I was wanting for her to maybe dive in that part a little bit more, because the edit that they gave her about her just being kooky wasn't just about being kooky. It was about also her freeness and almost being too free spirited, right? That there is almost no construct, there is no structure in a sense, right? Which is cool. I mean, everyone has their own thing to do, right? Like I'm quite free spirited in some sense. If I'm gonna do the live, I'm gonna do it now. I'm not gonna do it. You know what I mean? It's also at the same time. So there's some aspect to that. But I wanted to hear her be like, I don't know. Maybe I wanted to hear a bit more in terms of, because he made that as a complaint, not necessarily that she's bad, but to say like this is what he required. He wanted more of that structure from her. So it wasn't necessarily a bad edit. That's actually her. Like that's actually, she is somebody who lacks structure. I think she discussed that later on in the interview anyway. But I guess that's what I was kind of alluding to. But yes, I do agree that she did take some accountability in terms of like not trying to say that's not me, like it's not ever me. I mean, they lied on me. No, she did actually take some accountability. So I would agree on that particular aspect.
Yeah, and I think like one thing I've learned, and this is like part in therapy, and then like also part in just me kind of just unpacking things. It's like sometimes we watch these people or in relationships, we want people to show up the way we want them to show up. So sometimes when we see like we may see an error in somebody, and I learned this like in my relationship with my ex-wife, and some like it was like like I wanted her to do a very specific thing a very specific way, but she's not me and I'm not her. So in my frustrations to be right, because there might have been something I was right about, right, in terms of, hey, you need to do this better, I also have to give the person the room to do it in their way because they're not me. So I think that's kind of how I looked at Karla, and maybe like a lot of people might have misinterpreted like, oh, you like her, you could be with her. Probably not. Probably not. I couldn't, there's things I can appreciate about somebody with not wanting to be with them romantically. And I appreciated certain aspects of her, like just that ability, because a lot of people would run away from that. We see a lot of people in these reality shows, as soon as they get an edit, whatever it is, they defend. Editing screwed me. But no, there's parts of you that show up a particular way. And then obviously they highlight, expand on it, cut, splice, and edit. But so I guess for me, that's why I was like, okay, good. She didn't try to say like, oh, they did me dirty, because she knows that that's an aspect of who she is. That's who she is. And that's probably one of the primary reasons that her and Juan weren't going to be able to work together, is because she might be able to come 20, but he wasn't going to move any. So in order for them to work, she would have to move more, and then he would have to kind of do whatever he needed to do, and it just was never going to happen.
I can see that. I think he is a bit more rigid than well, I mean, they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. She is a very free-spirited person, and he's a very rigid person. So it's like, again, he's the experts, because they knew exactly what they were doing. They put two people who had different ways of operating on purpose. It's an experiment. And that's why, it is frustrating sometimes when you watch it, because it's like they know that there has to be some level of complementary behavior here, right? Like for me personally, I couldn't be with someone so rigid. But then somebody so rigid wouldn't want to be with someone like me either. I'm free-spirited. I'm actually more like Karla than I would be more Juan. You know what I mean? So I would understand if somebody said they didn't want to date me because I'm a bit more free-spirited. I like to do my things like when I want to do it, right? Like how when we're out and about on holiday, we do things free-spirited. But if then it came down to it, but people wanted to be more rigid, then we would might have to part ways, because I can't do that. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be a negative to be labeled as a bad person. It should be labeled as this doesn't work for me, which is what he did say. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying for anybody watching it as a relationship construct, it's not about saying someone's a bad person. More, this doesn't work for me personally. So yeah, I can hear that. Okay, let's play a bit more.
Dive into that, because the way I wanted to be a fly on the wall to have context is what's happening here. Like there's
nothing was fucking happening. Nothing was happening. That's why I totally get why they're like, okay, let's put the attention
into this.
Yeah, I totally get it, because if not, then like what
are we serving up? Okay,
right.
So like, that was the interesting part to the relationship, was your quirkiness for them.
I would say so, because if not, we would be having board meetings every day.
From the selection of cast members, do you think there's anybody that you would have been better matched with than Juan?
No, I think I mean, I never even like thought of that, because I would never even, I feel like that's a bound, like my mind never even like thought like that or would think like that, because they're all matched with their specific person, and that's just like no.
Interesting that you had a mental boundary to not even think that, and yet we have the polar opposite with another couple on the show, which we'll also dive into just a little bit. Okay, so that's it.
I needed to stop shading the other couple because first of all, she supports everybody's woman's rights and wrongs. You can't now quit that and say you don't support Madison's wrongs. But I think Carla made a really good point here, right? I think it was a really good point. Taking one out of the situation completely, just focusing on Carla, what she said here, I really like this point, which is that she had no other focus except just being in that relationship, whether it was right, whether it was wrong, whether it was working, whether it wasn't working. She was willing to be focused on that, which is what other couples did not do, which is fair. But I think it was a good point, that she made that she said, hey, I think it was only going to be Juan. Now, hey, we don't know. There probably wasn't anybody who's going to be a better match for her. So she can't say anything. But I still think it's a valid point that she makes in terms of just being committed to the process, to the marriage, and being a committed person in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think it speaks to like her loyalty and how she looks at a committed relationship. And I think, and for a lot of us that were triggered by what happened with Madison and David, I think that's probably that part of us that just was so annoyed, frustrated, not happy, displeased with how their relationship started. Because a lot of us do have those boundaries. Other people may not. Right? They may be a little bit more fluid in their boundaries or, be willing to, compromise on one thing or another. Maybe they look at the process, well, this isn't traditional. So, we can kind of look outside and look to other options, So, but I do like that she stated that, hey, listen, and again, I think that again, it just goes back to, I think it just speaks to like who she is as a core of a person, because she's like, hey, as much as Juan and I didn't work out, I think we were put together for a reason. And whether it worked out or not, I think he was the best match at that time based on whatever facts or, circumstances they had. So.
Interesting. So you feel like out of the selection, Juan was in fact your best match there.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Initially.
And we'll expand. So now let's get into wedding day. First of all, it would be remiss to not point out that you and your bridesmaids looked absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, my sissies.
Yes. It was Evie and Beans, right?
Evie, Beans, Rocio, and Julie.
Okay, because you have 6 siblings, correct? Or there's 6 including you?
Yeah, there's 6 total. So there's 5 girls and 1 boy. Same parents. We're from the same parents. We're like best friends, and we're always together. Yeah,
you guys are everything. You guys are everything.
Thank you.
So cute. Okay. Were there any details that you were not able to include on your Married at First Sight wedding that you would want in your future wedding?
I thought the wedding was beautiful. I loved it. And to swear to God, I have always said I hate planning. I hate admin work. I just like what I like. And I've always said, if I ever get married, I just want to show up. I don't care who plans it. I just don't care. I just want to show up, say I do, and have a good time. And that's exactly what happened. So I was like, how did I manifest this?
Okay, I love that because you actually got to basically have your dream come true. Because I remember on wedding day, you literally talked and you're like, this isn't something I would not do.
Yeah, I'm all about living every human experience that comes my way. Life would be so boring if you didn't step outside your comfort zone and invite the magic in.
And you've inspired me to not lean into uncomfortable situations, but more so not lean away from them. You know what I mean? Sort of just still be present there and sort of meet people for where they're at and accept what they're giving you when that's just the reality of the situation you're locked into at that time. So you did inspire me watching, because I'm like, you know what? If she could do that, why am I bitching about this birthday dinner? It's going to be fun. I could have a good time. I don't have to make it such a big deal in my head.
That makes me so happy. It honestly took me so much work to get to this place. And I have to thank my therapist, because if she wasn't in my life, I would have been a hot ass mess on this show.
Credit to your therapist, because that really, truly shone throughout your experience.
Me too. I promise, going forward, when I do meet the love of my life, we will do tantric yoga. I feel like that is a necessity to be able to connect on a deeper level other than sexually. That's what I want in a partner. I want to have a long lasting, healthy relationship.
And even if your partner afterwards says maybe they say in a week, I can't say it was my favorite activity, but in the moment they're leaning into it and they're present and they don't make you feel small for suggesting it or thinking that could be a solution. That in itself is a quality that I feel like you would want in a partner, just to meet you there and be willing to try it. That you weren't asking for someone to walk away and be like, tantric yoga every week, me and you. You weren't expecting necessarily that reaction, but just to try it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just being open-minded. I think I'm 35 years old. I've lived the life that I wanted in this meantime. When I meet my partner, I want someone who's going to be able to like introduce new things to me so I could evolve and grow. Am I going to like everything? No. But the fact that my partner is introducing this to me, like, why wouldn't I give it a shot? And I felt like going into Married at First Sight and experiencing this, it was very interesting to see that my partner had such walls up and like, but to be honest, I didn't even know a lot of this until I watched the show.
Mm.
I didn't realize there was so much pushback or so much resistance until I was watching the show with the rest of the viewers. Because present day as it was happening, it seemed to me that it was obviously not something that he would have right away went into, but he seemed open and optimistic. So watching the show, I was a little taken aback and surprised that in his interviews it was like such a big deal.
I think this is a key point to highlight on. I think this is a key point to um talking about whether because she was like she didn't realize there was so much pushback on the situation with Juan. I'm saying I disagree because I went back through it and they discussed it on several points, the things that he did or didn't like. So, but I also, when I say disagree, I still agree with her in terms of her feelings. Because I think sometimes you can misunderstand how someone may feel about something to the furthest degree because the other person may be a little bit more passive. And I think Juan is a bit more passive. I think he's not as assertive with how he feels about something because I saw that when he did the letter challenge. So he doesn't actually necessarily assert always how he feels about it. He moves more passive aggressively, which is why I said that he labeled her as passive aggressive. He's also passive aggressive. He's just as passive aggressive as she is. He doesn't communicate everything that he feels at that time. He did make some complaints, but he was also passive aggressive, I believe, with that situation. How did you see that, Sean, in terms of that particular response, in terms of her not being aware of the pushback per se?
Yeah, I didn't take it as at that. I don't think it was a one-to-one. I did notice, even in my review of the episodes, he was more vocal in his confessionals or interviews, whatever the hell they call those things. He was, a little bit more expanding on his opinions. Like when he said, I think it's stupid that she quit her job. Like that wasn't a comment he made to her. That was like an after live, after thing. So there was more. I think what she was saying is she saw more of his displeasure with who she was after watching it versus him being upfront. We'll probably skip through it, but she did give an example. Like when they did the whole tarot card thing, she said to the person, Juan is not, so it's not that she didn't know there were certain things he wasn't comfortable with, but she said to the tarot person, hey, listen, Juan's not really super comfortable with tarot. So, I don't, whatever. And he was like, no, I want to do it. And I think this is just for whatever reason, Juan, like some people, I don't know, imposter syndrome is probably not the right word, but it's like people who are hyper aware of how other people perceive them. So they jump through unnecessary hoops to try to be a certain way when they can just be themselves. So instead of saying, you know what, I am uncomfortable with the tarot and it's not really something I want to lean into, he's like, oh no, I don't want the world to see me as a square, or I want the world to see me as a fun guy. So maybe he's part people pleaser mixed in with like an avoidant. I don't know. You know more about that than I do, but that's kind of like what I started to see here a little.
I think you nailed it, Sean, and that's where I have to hold one accountable because I think where you guys were seeing that fakeness is I now start seeing what you're saying. So he's actually fawning. What we call that is fawning. He's people pleasing. He's masking what his true actual feelings are about an issue. Like the like you said that she did give that. I remember that example in the tarot card reading where he said he's okay with it. Well, if you're okay with it, I can't do anything about it if you say you're okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's what I say to women too. You can't just say you're okay with something and then the man's like, well, I thought you were okay with it. Now you're not okay with it. I'm not talking about sex, by the way, guys. That's something really different. Look at the signs, okay? But in general aspect, let's put that disclaimer out there. We don't want anyone to get themselves in trouble. But the general disclaimer of other aspects, like, let's say if you say, we want to go to that restaurant and you're like, well, I was okay with it. But at the end of it, you're like, I really hate that restaurant. Why didn't you tell me? You know what I mean? Like, so in those particular aspects, there's what we call he's fawning. He's people pleasing. He's not being his authentic self. Maybe he's afraid of being his authentic self, or maybe he's lying. Like you can take either way, which depends on how you want to view it and what angle you want to come from. I won't disagree with any of the angles. I'll just say that from that psychological perspective, that's what we call fawning. People who are fearful, avoidant, which would match what Juan is, coming from a very chaotic background, being kidnapped, all those kind of things. You know what I'm saying to you? You probably learn after being kidnapped, you can't be your true authentic self. That's a fear response. So that in that essence, when you're dealing with, let's say, the tarot card readings, you're now, how you really feel about the issue is what we got in that after video where he said about, after comments on the person's video where he said this, but maybe on the show, when he's talking to Karla, he's like, yeah, I'm cool with that. And in the back of his mind, he's like, I'm not cool with that. I don't like that, but I don't want to look like I'm not easygoing, like you said, Sean. So I take that into consideration in that respect. So she may have been blindsided in that respect. Okay, yeah, I can take that. I can see that. Any other thoughts to that? I don't know, because you're missing good points in that. I think I didn't see that. No? Okay, cool. All right. Bring Seaway up as well. And then, hello, Seaway, you right?
Hello.
What's Gochi? I don't know if you just saw. Sorry, I put a video in front of your face there, Sean. But I don't know if you saw that. I'll move it and edit it so you're fine. Let me move it over here so it's in front of me, no one else.
You can put it in front of me. My face is not on.
That's very true. I didn't even think about it. Good for that. 'Cause I put it in front of myself. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if you just saw the clip. I don't know if you saw the clip. Go for it if you want to have your say on that.
I'm not sure I have a strong opinion, but between you and Sean, I see it both ways. So, we can move past that one.
We still want to hear your opinion. Go for it. It doesn't matter if it lines up with Sean. It's important that we have different perspectives. Just go for it. You're good.
I'm just not sure what my perspective is because, I mean, I do agree that he was doing a lot of, talking on the confessional. But I also think that he did give hints when he was there. But I definitely feel like he was saying more behind her back than he was saying to her face. So it's not like I can't say he didn't say anything directly to her, but he definitely was doing more yapping behind the scenes consistently. So I just don't know, I definitely validate her experience. I do think he did try to drop some nuggets throughout their experience, but it definitely wasn't as loud as the confessionals for sure.
Love that. Appreciate that. All right, let's play a bit more.
Okay, let's dive into that because as a viewer, it seems like At the Honeymoon was at least the start of On Camera, where we saw the relationship sort of begin to break down a little bit, and not necessarily break down in terms of you weren't getting along, but just not necessarily track on towards yes, they're getting married. And I'm wondering what we didn't see that was going on in the honeymoon that would give us context as to like what happened there, what was going on.
Well, on the honeymoon, I feel like that's when I was able to see and observe like who Juan is. They only show like little snippets of us, and first off, I have to say, like, I get it. Like, him and I were like filler space, so we didn't get like a ton of airtime. So you weren't able to see like the conversations or the activities that we were even participating in. So I felt like we had such a connection on our wedding day and even that night. And then as going into the honeymoon, I was realizing there was just like little to no consideration for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the day that he said he forgot about me, that was like day 3. But before that, there was just no compromise. If I wanted to do an activity, he would be like, no, well, I want to do this. So it was either what he wanted to do or we weren't going to do anything at all and just split up. So to me, I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be our honeymoon. We're supposed to be together. And instead of trying to get to know each other, he would rather like do what he wants to do or go with the group and focus his time and attention on that.
I want to get your perspective on this part, in terms of the separation from early, as she describes, maybe him not being as compromising with the time and time spent with her as well. What's your thoughts around this particular aspect? I'll let you go first, Sean.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to more of Juan's rigidity. And we kind of even pointed it out. And I remember at one point early on, you were even like getting a little frustrated with him because you like made a comment about how he was just embracing. I don't know if it was the tantric exercise or one of the exercises.
Yeah.
He was just being really, just kind of like flippant about it. Then he did the other thing. What else? Oh, the whole letter writing thing. When they had to write a letter to their young selves. As much as he was vulnerable, it just felt performative to me. And I mean, we hadn't even seen the full scope of Juan yet, but it just seemed very performative. He like overtook the moment. So, a lot of that stuff made sense. And then as soon as he made that comment about, he had so much fun with David that he wasn't, he forgot about her. That just shows how insensitive you are. This is somebody you just met her. And she is your wife, and you are really, this is the time to dig your heels in, get to know her, get intimate, not physically, but like get intimate, and start to build a bond with somebody who might be your forever wife. And he was just more enthused about doing everything else. And I think this goes back, like, because this just gave me more insight to Juan about how avoidant he is. I think he was scared to like Karla. I think he was scared to like her. And again, please, not you guys in the comments tonight, but like the after comments, it's like, stop with this thing that somebody wants him to want her. This is a nuanced conversation. There is a fearful part of him that was just scared to delve into the process. So he put up barriers and blocking to get to build to know her. So that's why it's like, if you don't want to do what I want to do, we're not doing anything. That's the shutdown. And then lastly, I'll say, we'll kind of probably talk more about it, but I think him starting with that secret, there's also some shame. Whatever the secret is, it could be he broke his pinky toe. I don't know. Whatever the hell it is, we'll probably never know. But whatever that secret is, now that he got called out for it, he's shameful. So now he can't even be vulnerable with her, because now she has information that he never wanted to get out. Because trust me, the way he's carrying on and talking about blackmail, he never wanted Karla to know. But whatever it was a breach of their initial relationship and their union. So production had to force him to have the conversation. So now that's why he gave her the out, because I think people who are like avoidant or scared or fearful, they want to just leave me so I don't have to be rejected. So that's why I think he's doing the rejecting, because he knows already that Karla has some information that he never wanted to be released, but now she knows, so I can't even let her get close because my vulnerabilities are out there and it wasn't at my own pace.
I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Seaway, go for it.
Yeah, Sean ate it up, so I pause. Sean,
wait, why are you pausing? You don't need to pause.
It's okay, Seaway. I'm an eater. It's all right.
All right.
It's okay. You don't got to worry about me.
Secret.
You don't got to worry about that, as you tell the folks.
Well, okay. So y'all are hilarious. The after comments gonna be like, what the hell? I think Sean kind of said everything I was gonna say. But the fact that Karla really, she didn't even have to divulge that there's a secret. I mean, that what the secret was. The fact that she said that it was a secret so bad that raggedy behind kinetic that really ain't worried about nothing thought it was bad enough that they had to stop, they had to stop them in their tracks before the civil union and let Karla know, it was bad. And that explains that all of this, Karla ain't got no job, no house, whatever that people been ranting and raving about for the longest.
No
ain't
plan,
got
no job,
no job,
no
ain't got
home.
nothing to do with crap like Sean and I have been saying from the beginning. No, it has everything to do with, like Sean said, when you have shame and when you're like afraid that you think somebody got some tea on you, you push them away. And even if you want to like them, it's like you're trying to find things not to like them because you're trying not to accept that this person has something over you, that now you're vulnerable. He doesn't want to be vulnerable. And the whole process, the fact that Kinetic spilled his tea is already making him vulnerable. And that's the reason why, y'all don't peep it, Juan was going out of his way to be fake nice to Karla, and I was trying to figure out why. I was trying to figure out like why he was going out of his way to be the quote unquote good guy and trying to play nice so God dog bad. And now it's clear. He pushed her away enough so she knows this ain't that, but also was keeping it cute the whole season. And now we know why. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing. But whatever that secret is, and the fact that he already another thing. Once Karla was not willing to just go along to get along, like whatever, I think she says later on in the interview that he's used to women just following him along like little yes men or whatever. Once he realized that Karla has her own mind, her own thoughts, and has her own interests, he definitely wasn't going to be interested. So I think that was also part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you both eloquently highlighted, there's some aspects here that behaviorally, that with Juan, I think I didn't even think of it until you kind of said it, Sean, about the push. Because that does something to someone. Like if he came out and said it himself, he would have been in control of the situation. But the fact that they forced him to tell the secret, at that point in time, maybe he was going to tell someone later, maybe not, who knows? But the fact he has forced to tell them at that point would have immediately put him into a situation where he feels like he's no longer in control. And that when you've been in control the majority of your life, of controlling every scenario, every circumstance, every little thing, which is what she describes later on anyway, as well, right? That when someone takes that control out of your hands, it is like the world is ending for you. You know what I mean? Like, again, all I'm explaining is behaviors. We're not saying there's any excuses. So I want to make it very, very clear. I'm just explaining the behaviors as what Sean and Sue are kind of alluding to. So yeah, there's a fear that instantly will put you into a space where you are spiraling, but now you're trying to regain all that power back. And you will do certain things as well. So I think that piece there about the secret being pushed out earlier than maybe he wanted to was just it just threw him all the way off. And now you can't make a sensible decision, right? Because now you are looking at that person like, they might have something on you, right? They do. They have a secret. They now know the secret, which maybe you want to say at your own time, but you can't. You have to say it then and then. Now, and also if you're an overthinker, this is what the overthinking that happens is, what do they really, and you kind of said it, Sean, what do they really feel about me? Because if I had done it at my own time, I would have been able to do it when I wanted to, laid it out correctly, put the carpet out, put the food out, everything, made it into a little whole procession. Then I would have told you, and I would be sure that if you were to accept it, I know that you're being sure. But I think being forced to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If it was that bad, if he had to tell it, then they should have told it. Being forced to do it is almost like, now if I tell you this thing, I also can't trust you being honest that you're actually okay with it. Like if I tell Sean, I'm forced to tell Sean, if I'm overthinker, I'm going to be thinking, well, Sean might not really like me. You know what I mean? Because I was forced to tell him this. It's not like, do you know what I'm saying to you? Maybe Sean's being nice, because really and truly, I'm also having to lie in some degree to what I'm really... Like if you're fawning, if you're a people pleaser, you're not being honest to your truest, authentic self. That's why you feel like someone else may also be not also true and authentic too. So if I tell Sean a secret, or I'm forced to tell Sean a secret, I'm also thinking, well, he can also lie too, because I can lie, and I think I'm a good person. And if Sean thinks he's a good person, he can lie too. So then you're kind of stuck in this kind of place where you're afraid of, like you said, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment of that secret as well. I don't know what the secret is, you know what I mean? But it's clearly something that was big enough for the show to get involved with, and for him to also have to be forced to give her the option as well in that respect as well. So yeah, go for it, John.
Another thing I just thought about while you were talking is that's why him and David are so close, because they're two sides of the same coin. Because notice, David spilled on his wedding day. So everything that was possibly something that could turn off Michelle, he told her it, and he overwhelmed her. Whereas Juan held it close to the vest. So they kind of both came into the process with things that, for whatever reason, didn't present them as the best partner, depending on who you ask, right? But one person said, I'm keeping it to the vest, and I'm going to hold on and maybe tell it when I think I've got the buy-in from the person, when the person is more invested in me. And David was like, nope, I'm going to tell you right away, either like it or love it. He's probably used to people just liking his fun-loving energy. So he thinks, I've got all this, kind of anxious energy. I'm just going to spill it. and then then the reverse is you wind up overwhelming the person, so the extremes are there with sharing information. It's just something that kind of popped in my head.
It's funny. It's so funny. That's a real thing. Oh, go for it, CEO. Go for it.
I said love that analogy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing. I didn't think of it until you said it. That Juan and David are quintessentially mirrors, and it's funny because obviously it reminds me of when you first came to the channel. Actually, it's the same thing. It's like there were certain things I couldn't say because as your mediator, you have to mediate. But Sean could say some stuff, and I was like, "Thank God somebody said it." I can't say it, but he can't say it. I can't say it because I'm a mediator. But actually, that is also why I really liked you as well, because you were outspoken in your opinions. You're still outspoken to this day, so we thank God. But I'm saying, like, it's you like though you either admire what someone has, or they are very similar to you, and maybe that's
No,
what
they don't
think
that. They think that you done silenced Sean and you done silenced me. So they don't.
Oh no, they know he's still talking. He's just talking a different way, but he's still
They
outspoken.
think you've silenced us both. What they
No,
say?
they think we need a stern scolding. We need a
Right,
reprimand.
We done got bent over your knee. We got spanked and were
Yes.
silenced. Allegedly.
You were.
He's getting that domestic discipline.
We need sensitivity training. We need all the things need to be put in our places and sat down.
As an FYI.
No. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get in trouble for sure this after comments. Okay, any other thoughts on this part before we move on? All right, next let's play some more of this clip. Good stuff.
Do you have any indication as far as like what that switch was to go from the chemistry to that?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to share?
I was thinking a lot about this, and it kind of goes into what is going on now, present day, when Juan is like going on his rants on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It was brought to my attention a couple days after the wedding that I was lied to on my wedding day in front of both families. He lied to me. I will not share what his lie is because unlike him, I have morals,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not for me to judge or to air his business out. I'm not a rat. So I will leave it up to him to share his truth on why it is that his lie caused a wedge between us.
Okay. For viewers.
Now, Karla, I need you to I need you to tell us the secret because there ain't no point mentioning it. But there's obviously something he lied about, right? Which caused a wedge between the two of them. So clearly there was something that already there was something that separated the two of them. You know what I mean? Which is important to know. What's your thoughts on this? She brought out that I ain't gonna say it because I ain't a rat, but I'm gonna let you know something else.
You know what I think it is? People think it's somebody says, I see all the comments, Seaway's right. He came out the closet. I don't know if he's in or out of that thing, but I don't think that's it. Somebody said something about the STDs of it all, a baby. Ain't none of that it. It's that man's immigration status, in my opinion. And the only reason why I think because she's using the word snitch. And in this type of, snitch is a very interesting word to me. And by saying snitch, like you don't say snitch on being a father or snitch on an STD. That's not the word you use. Snitch involves the police. And to me, this is just not the time to be telling everybody that Juan ain't got his papers. And I think for her, it's not worth it to do that. Like, why would you do that? So she's trying to keep it cute. But she's like, look, I'm finna call the ICE sickle, okay? We finna call them people if you keep playing with me. I think that's what it is. Because he already got this story. He in and out of Colombia, shipped out or whatever. I mean, if you're just doing the math, it's giving not an American citizen to me. Now, wouldn't you have to put that on the paperwork, your citizenship? Maybe he told her he had a green card, or I don't know, but that's what I think.
No, you have to be a citizen to be in MAPS. This is a 90-day fiance. You have to be a citizen.
How you know?
Because it's part of the application process.
Maybe he lied.
But it's just like, when you go to work, you have to fill out an I-9. They validate your paperwork. They go through that process.
So then what you think it is then if it ain't his citizenship? Because that's what he gives.
Listen, anything could happen. So let me not be too strong and then be wrong. So, you might see me on the next season of Maths coming down, 3 seasons ago. Never,
And then
never,
you
never,
let me
never.
know, because I mean, you can
All
still.
jokes, all jokes.
Can't you get an I-9 with a green? I don't know. I don't do immigration law. Can't you get an
No,
I-9 with a green
I just
card?
know a little bit about it because obviously I used to be part of the onboarding process when I was, hiring employees. So I used to spend a lot of time with recruiting. So there's certain things that they do ask you, and I know that that's part of the production process. And they have to sign a contract, and they're paid by, I believe, Kinetic. So all of that requires validation of your status. So I don't know. Somebody said maybe a previous marriage. Could be, could it be? Listen, I hate that allegedly, potentially. Maybe it's not immigration, but maybe it's something on his record. Maybe it's something on his record.
Previously married somebody for a green card. Like he had a previous marriage for citizenship. I think it's some related to them papers, in my opinion, but
y'all would have put this man in the rainbow community so bad.
Oh, who? Not me this time.
No, not you. The comments.
Okay, because they're gonna say it's me. I'm like, I didn't play with that man.
No, it's not you this time.
Well, they said there's a whole bunch of different things. I think
and
there's a whole bunch of things
that
could be. So.
What we know how free Karla is, unless she has like people are on a spectrum of behavior and how they show up. But to me, how free thinking she is, I think she's one of those women that if, she wouldn't have a necessarily issue with it. It might be the not telling her or if she asked him, but I don't see her as saying like, I'm not going to be a snitch or, I think knowing how she shows up, if it was that, she would definitely be more delicate about it. But, again, could I be wrong? Sure. But I just lean towards it has nothing to do with his sexuality. I don't think it's that.
Well, it's definitely something of a secret because it was such a secret that the show decided to offer this information to her. So, I think it's a interesting thing. You know what I mean? Like, I wish we stayed clear of it completely. You know what I mean? Because now we're all speculating as to what it is and putting pressure. And it's almost like, and I'm not even going to say she'd even do this maliciously, but I want to say it's almost like saying, well, Sean, you know about that thing, innit? And everyone's like, wait, what, Sean, what do you know about that thing? Oh, I don't want to ruin Sean's secret. You know what I mean? Nobody even knew there was a secret until I decided to open my mouth and say, well, Sean's got a little secret. So, but I guess obviously it's still part of her journey as well. So if she said it drew a wedge between the two of them, I'm surprised it drew a wedge between the two of them and not a wedge from her end. If you get what I'm saying to you, I wonder what kind of secret it is, because the secret, she's saying it drew a web between the both of them, rather than saying like, I now had an issue with you. Like, say if Sean Dan says to me, God forbid, he took out took out my parents, and I found out he's a secret agent and killed my parents. That's going to be a wedge that I'm now going to. I don't like Sean now. You know what I mean? Like, Sean still has affection for me as a brother, but I now have a problem with Sean. So it's interesting that she put it that way. I wonder what. Now it's got me thinking. It's got me thinking what it is. You know what I mean? So
it would be something that would make It would be something that would make a marriage voidable. And that's why that's what had me thinking like immigration status. But if Sean says there's too many hoops before you get to that place, then maybe not. I'm thinking like a prior marriage probably would feel like fraud if you didn't know. Potentially a kid, but I nowadays I don't know.
Could be STD as well.
STD, something like an STD, especially a permanent one.
Yeah, permanent one. Yeah.
Those are really the only. If you guys think about it, him doing this, he's made us like really narrow it down to only a few things. Like his sexuality wouldn't probably do it unless it's like really bad. It has to be one of those for Kinetic to be like, oh, a vasectomy.
I didn't thought about that.
That's another good one.
I didn't thought about that.
Yeah. It could be a lot of things. And remember, he's the one that brought it out. Now she's talking about it because he's the one that started all this. She's blackmailing me, her family, bots, and all that stuff. Her sister's retort would have been buried in the comment section of It Takes Two's YouTube channel. or wherever, or Facebook group, wherever that channel, whatever her sister commented, nobody was even thinking about that until he then chose to now do a whole second, third, fourth video and talking about he's being blackmailed.
It's interesting. We're down that rabbit hole, aren't we? All right.
Who would, if you could point, without saying his experience for him, could you point us to the direction of if it felt more like business motivation or he was taken? Could you say if it felt like either of those?
No, his lie was more so like his personal life, and that's why I don't feel comfortable sharing, because it was previous to when he met me. So that's why when I heard because production actually asked him to tell me. So they pulled me aside to make sure that I was aware that he lied to me on the wedding day. So since this lie occurred previous to meeting me, I didn't feel like I wanted to place judgment. I still wanted to hold space and keep an open mind to the experience and not let it like.
So let me ask you this. Was it
previous?
Just so we're clear, previous. She said previous to her, isn't it? So I want to make that clear because it sounded when she said the lie that he lied directly to her. But is that because I'm trying to figure out if that's because he lied because of something to contravening towards the vows, or is it because it might have been her brain just thinking really fast. Is she saying that there's a lie that he told in the past that had nothing to do with her and is coming up now or something? Because it just felt a little bit jumbled up a little bit.
She's saying it was in his personal life and it was something that transpired. Whatever he lied about, let's say he had a relationship, or he cheated on his ex-wife, or he was previously married, whatever it was, it's something that happened before her. And now, it should have been something that he disclosed to her. So let's say he was married, right? Because there's some speculation about that being it, right? So it doesn't really affect her today because him being married doesn't hurt her, but it is something that you should tell somebody that you are about to marry for the first time. Hey, this isn't my first marriage. Again, hypothetical speculation, but that's how I took it away.
Okay, I get that. I totally understand that. I guess obviously whatever it is she told the family, because the family obviously said that's what they started saying about him coming out and telling the truth. So I guess that is interesting. Okay, we'll play a bit more. Oh.
Do you think that the change in him was the fact that you had now been made aware, without him being the person to breach that conversation, that he had lied to you, that walls went up and he changed his behavior?
Yeah, I think so. Because after I became aware of what happened, him and I had a discussion by ourselves without production. And, I actually was supportive of him telling me the truth. And I was thankful. I don't know this man. So I'm like, okay, that must have taken a lot to share with me. So let's just take it easy. Let's see where this goes. Let's build a friendship and see if it can turn into a romantic one. But like for me, being lied to, like one of the first things coming out of your mouth is a lie. That already like raises like my awareness, and I'm like, okay, if this relationship started off with a lie, I can only imagine how it's gonna go.
So similar to Ashley, who found out some information. Is Karla at any point accountable then for going through the situation when there was a lie that's presented at the very beginning? Well, we have to hold Juan accountable first of all. So let me hold up Juan. First of all, lying, we cannot be doing. This is going to destroy relationships the moment that you have to lie, right? Now, I know he may have felt scared, but there's no excuse. Him lying on that wedding day means that she can't actually be true in her estimations of the situation. Also, I don't know if it was after the wedding, after they've already said the vows, which means now she's now already locked in some sense of making a commitment on that particular show, which is, again, for Juan, that is deceitful, right? No matter how difficult the actual secret may have been, it's deceitful to put her in a position where she now almost can't say no, in the sense of like she's committed to this situation, right? She's said her vows or whatever, and now you're having to tell them. I don't know if they said it before or if it was after. So we weren't really. I don't know if she made it aware, made it very clear if it was before the vows or after. But either way, you lied. You know what I mean? Like, and that in itself destroys relationships. You know what I mean? Destroys relationships. So for me personally, that shouldn't run. and he has to be accountable for that. And I wish he would have come out and been clean about that. Hey, on the wedding day, I did lie about something that was personal to me, right? And say that again. This is where Juan, I have to hold him accountable because he's spinning the story in a way where he's not telling what he's also done, right? So this is something he has to be accountable for and stop being squeaky clean. Because if you come out and said, "Hey, there was something happened on wedding day. It's my personal issue that was, but I did lie. I wasn't honest with her." Right? Then we have nothing to hold on you. But now we have something. We got another thing to hold on you. You know what I mean? In that respect. So whether you're fearful or not, it's still a lie in that particular aspect as well. So yeah. And then I guess the other side is that if Karla found out and went ahead, do we? Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, the podcaster did go further and said it's not a sexuality, so it wasn't that. Okay. Do we have to hold Karla accountable here for going forward in the situation?
Well, I mean, she went forward, but she said she wasn't the one that was hesitant. She said he was acting funny because she knew his tea. So she said she wasn't treating him no different. He was actually treating her different. So I'm not sure what we'd be holding her accountable for. Now, if she came back at the end and pulled a Virginia and pulled a what's his face talk about, I never, you was taking all my money and you were a Republican, then yeah, I'm gonna hold it against you because you mad about something that you got passed. But she's not mad about the secret. She mad that he was acting funny. So, or more annoyed, I should say. So no, my answer is no.
Yeah, no, I think like she was willing to look past it, and again, I think that speaks to, his rigidity and her lack of rigidity. And I think, that's just an interesting thing because whatever that secret is, if you're forced to, if you're in a situation to marry somebody, you want somebody a little bit more open and accepting. So I think like sometimes, and this made me kind of think, and I'm going to go like on my own little cliff here, because the experts can be accountable for a lot of things. And I'm not saying they're perfect and they get it right all the time, but I think they got it right with Karla and Juan. It's not to say they needed to, they get it right with a lot of people, but they just don't work out. That's just the real situation. But whatever he got cooking, whatever that secret is, you can't have somebody rigid. You paired him with the Michelle, she gonna shut him down. She wouldn't have married him. You know what I mean? Because she's not somebody, she has her walls up, boundaries up. She's very firm and strong. It's not to say Karla doesn't have any boundaries because, she does, but she's definitely more free and a lot more liberal in her thought process. So I think that, that's that. Oh, and by the way, I saw a couple of people saying it was Trump. No. And that's one of the things that disappointed me too.
She also said
they didn't talk about politics at all. They never even had the conversation. So it definitely had nothing to do with Trump or politics. So yeah, she's a little bit too much of a space cadet. So that's another reason why we could never work out, because we all know we done been down that rabbit hole with me. If we can't talk about politics, I don't know where you stand, then it's never, ever, 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 never gonna work. So.
Not him disqualifying himself. No, she actually cleared it up as well later on in the interview. She said that he actually voted Republican. So I think he said that, isn't it? Did she clear up?
I don't think she said he voted Republican, but I think she kind of said she would think that. Like, I think she just said, we never talked about it, but, this is what it was. She said, looking at his previous tweets.
Yes.
He had tweeted some things in social media. That's where she then learned after the fact that he was in fact Republican.
That was it. Yeah, you nailed that.
Seems like she had more reasons than one to leave Juancho alone. Whatever he got going on, and all y'all saying that maybe he trans. I don't want to hear nothing about what I be saying in the future ever again, because y'all are going ham in these comments. That man has an Adam's apple, and he is pretty. That's a pretty man. But that jawline is very masculine, and he's tall, and he got an Adam's apple. So I think we can rule that out.
See where you go get yourself in trouble.
You're not able to create an Adam's apple.
See what? Just let it be.
Are you?
You better get Sean's P and M.
I'm about to have to ask my mom about that one, but I think the Adam's apple is
yes, but I'm just saying, like, when you start going down the anatomy things, he just ain't trans. How about that? Just
I was telling him why I don't believe he is. I was trying to give them some reasoning, but whatever.
Sean's saying it. Discuss it behind the scenes. Don't worry. We just
just leave the anatomy out of it. Just
not Adam's apples are off limits in 2025. Woo!
I think you're missing it. You're missing it. It's okay, Seaway. I don't want to draw more attention.
Okay, yeah, we can move on. Whatever it is, you can tell me later.
Oh gracious. No, I definitely hear you. No, I was more saying, when I said accountable, not necessarily like to say, like, like, obviously when you, bit like how Ashley found out some information, right, and should have just kind of processed it and said, actually, let me take myself out. That's what I was thinking with the Karla situation. Like, if someone lies to you on their wedding day, no matter how free spirited you are, you probably need to take yourself out of the situation because they've lied to you. You know what I mean? And of course, it's a big enough lie that he's been forced to tell you. You might want to think to yourself, maybe this person might not be an honest person. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's where Karla's kind of free-spiritedness kind of takes her to, that she's overly trusting of people. And in this instance, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I meant in that sense. But yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think she's a glass half full person. Again, love me some Karla. I understand that. I can be that way sometimes. But I do think how people kind of start things. I always say in relationships that people give you their best usually in the beginning, and it's only downhill from there in many ways. And so if you started off like that, well, child, it's only the worst is yet to come. I mean, that's the best I can say. So somebody starting off lying, deceiving, cheating, heartbreaking, let it go. It's gonna get worse. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, I think that is a point to think about, right? We can't eliminate that, right? Because whatever it was, he was dishonest where he should have been for all intents and purposes. They were married is something that he should have disclosed, and he had to be forced to do it. So I think that is, that is something that should, make you reassess the situation. And hey, if I'm meeting you for the first time and we fitting to get married and you give me an out, I'm probably going to take the out because it sounds like you might be doing me a favor, just like The Bachelor, see, we were talking about it in your, our little separate group chat. And, I was telling the ladies, his rejection is God's protection, right? So sometimes, when somebody is letting you know right away, you can go, you probably should go. If somebody gives you a backdoor out of a relationship in the beginning, and it's something that we might say, no, let's just give it a shot. I'm here. No, pack it up. I think there's something to that.
For sure. See what that girl got for being chose by Matt James, the little racist one. Yeah, she didn't get nothing but hell.
Well, she got what she deserved going to that antebellum wedding. So
I don't feel bad for her. I'm just saying,
she deserved everything she gets.
But her prize wasn't nothing but hell.
For her FAO moment.
That's true.
Yo, the comments are insane. They're insane. Now, listen. I don't know if this is a separate crop of people, although I do see a couple of y'all that have been in here before.
It's our usual crowd.
Y'all were throwing pitchforks at me, and it definitely Seaway. To God forbid you're talking so negatively about him. Now you see the light, and some of y'all is the same ones that had your Juan capes on. I think y'all owe us a little bit of a, hey guys, maybe we was on y'all necks a little bit too much.
Well, they definitely owe us an apology.
Y'all acknowledge it a little bit, but I think some of y'all in the comments owe us, and then definitely whoever y'all in them after comments, and I'm ready to name some names, y'all been on my neck. So I would expect an apology because y'all have stressed me out, giving me chronic migraines. If I partook in the devil's lettuce, I might have to take something to calm my nerves the way y'all been having me go back and forth with y'all in the after comments. So.
Cussing us out.
Exactly. Telling us we're disgusting, unacceptable, Oh, Sean has a problem admitting when he's wrong. He can't take it. He's insufferable. He's insufferable. He needs to be removed from the panel. Sean needs to be removed immediately. Take him out, Kojo. Then when I offer them a chance, I'm going a little rant and I'm gonna wrap it up. But just give me some levity, you know. So yeah, and you know, take him off the panel. He just doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how to act. He can't even uphold himself. His voice is shaking so much. He's seething. He's upset. I don't even take his benediction seriously anymore. These are verbatims. I'm adding a little 10 on 2 with some of the but those are the words these people were telling me. Then when I tell them, you come up on the panel, Kojo is accepting applicants. Oh no, I'm not able to do that. Oh, well, you're really good at giving advice. You're really good at telling me how I need to show up. So for some of them people out there, because you know, listen, I may have deleted the comments, but some who shall not be named is heavy on the block and removed from the channel. So you might not be able to comment your apology depending on what you say. You might not be able to apologize. So I'll take a note from Karla's book and you can send it into the atmosphere for me. Send it into the energy realms so I can receive that apology coming.
They ain't gonna apologize to me, so God forbid.
Don't beg. It's disgusting.
Honestly, we're projecting it's all Kojo's fault. Kojo done lassoed and gathered up and rounded up a group full of red pill and pick-me's all to one video. I have no idea where the people came from. It was just a group of red pill and women in their capes with their capes on. Where'd you get them from, Kojo? They're gone. I don't know where they're at. They never been seen again.
Y'all need to be accountable for the kind of stuff that you lot pull in. It's not to do with me. I'm a mediator. I'm here to mediate. So I'm here to mediate.
My girl Lily even called it out. She's like, "Where the hell who are these people?"
I'm here to mediate. I know they ate, but I'm here to mediate.
Well, they gone. I don't know where they at.
It ain't got nothing to do with me. Okay. But y'all gathered them up very well. Thank you for gathering up like the angels do at a harvest time at the end of the day. So we appreciate you. You know what I'm saying to you. And
Kojo loves the carnage. He sure do.
If they come through again, you know, let's welcome them. You know, let's welcome them with a welcome mat.
We ain't seen them. I'm starting to think they like them that day when I talked about the crystals, and then they all came in the chat and scared me. That was them. We had the crystals full of red pillars. I don't know.
No, that was the different. These are the Bible thumpers.
Wait, were they Bible?
That's how y'all gonna get some more people because you keep talking about them. I'm
saying out. That's who they were. They were Bible thumpers. Somebody gave me a whole breakdown on Deuteronomy 3 and 4. You know, there was some Bible thumpers in there. There's some male identified women. You know, and then a sprinkling of red pill men. You know, but it's the guys. I'm not surprised because some of the stuff we're saying and I say, it steps on their neck. So it's kind of me getting in the way of some of the stuff that they do or them wanting to be a nice guy and hate hearing somebody call men out. It's like, why would a man call another man out? Foreign concept, right? So, it was a lot of that. But a lot of them, Kojo, you love a good villain discussion. So a lot of them were just wanting to defend you because they hated the way Sean, because me and you, and we get to disagreeing, we're gonna, so they just couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand it. I had the nerve to challenge you, the nerve, So yeah.
Hey, you see me? I just ignore the messages now. You see, I put a love heart after I finish the conversation. I keep it moving.
Oh, because Kojo, you're built different. The way you pour tough, Kojo, because they'll tell you how to run your own channel and you'll like it and keep it moving.
Yeah, continue. I learned my lesson, okay? I ain't tussling with these people. There's too many of them, okay? I'm one man, so
Shout out to Kojo. He's a professional, okay? He's professional. Sean and I are not that professional. We will go back and forth, so don't try it.
Get someone else to do it, they said.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna play some more of this clip. Oh, gosh.
Going back to when he made the comment about David's relationship. So now we have the context that it wasn't just the fact that he made that comment about he liked spending time with David and he forgot about you, but it was also that the mindfulness went out the window and you felt very much like you got a different Juan all of a sudden.
Or maybe this was just him the entire time. Like Juan also told me he's used to, as well as Juan, as well as his family. They say it very openly. Like Juan is used to dating girls who kind of just follow him around and do what he does. That is not me. That is not. I have a mind of my own. I have my own life going on. I'm just looking to see how our lives can intertwine. And his behavior on the honeymoon was showing me that, yes, he's used to doing whatever he wants with little to no consideration of what his partner wants. If I was like, hey, I want to go to the pool, and he's like, well, I want to go for a jog, and I'm like, well, can't we do both? There's the compromise. Like there was no compromise. So I think when he finally just said, Karla, I forgot about you. I didn't even remember you were here. I was like, exactly. I know this. This is a way that you acted this entire time. You do not care to get to know me on a deeper level. And I did tell him, we did have a conversation less than 24 hours later where I'm like, hey, that didn't make me feel good. And yeah, like we had a funny moment the next day where I said, okay, I'm going to remember to forget about you. So you can carry your own bag. But I feel like the way that it was portrayed is that like he was upset, that it was like passive aggressive. I don't see how that's passive aggressive. Nope. If I talked to you about it, we laughed about it. And I also went with you to go retrieve your things when he lost it. So like, I was totally confused that in his interviews, he was saying I was passive aggressive because I just didn't get that. I'm like, how, if I told you less than 24 hours, my feelings.
So this is making a lot more sense.
I mean, you can still be passive aggressive, even tell your feelings. If you lift that bag on purpose, you can be. But I do take her point on board that Juan wasn't necessarily integrating, nor bringing her in, nor bringing her into the world that he was in, or vice versa. He was unwilling to share his world in essence as well. What's your thoughts on this? Not being able to share the thoughts, not showing to share the world with Karla and not necessarily bringing her in.
I mean, my only regret, and to be honest, and this is the reason why I do what I do, I don't think you benefit at all from going along and getting along with someone who's being fake or gaslighting you or putting up a perception that's not reality. Karla, by going along and trying to be polite or trying to be easygoing, literally just got her character slandered for months. I mean, she couldn't have, maybe she didn't foresee that, but I mean, her being willing to go along with Juan's fakeness and his inability to compromise and his unwillingness to participate in the process had him looking like a decent guy, when if she would have called him out, then people would have seen him more like a Michelle, to be honest. But she went along and tried to be a decent, considerate human, and all she did is get her name slandered, her business slandered, her work ethic slandered. And this is why I'm gonna call things out. I'm gonna issue spot right at the time. You can call me whatever you want, but you're not gonna be playing on my name. You're not gonna do that. I'm gonna call it out because we will never benefit from being nice. What is the Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote? Good women or nice women ain't really, the moral of it is nice women ain't accomplished crap in life. You don't get anywhere in life as a woman just being nice. It gets you how people talked about Karla. And that's probably why I felt so personal about it, because I think a lot of times when women are, just trying to be decent and they go along with somebody being fake, you see how they talk about you. So
yeah, I would say two things can be true, right? So they did have a conversation. She did help him to find whatever was lost, but she also made it a point that I'm not going to keep tolerating your ish, so now you're going to have to suffer because you made an insensitive remark. So I think just like part of her, and she says this too, in the beginning and later on, that she's going through therapy and learning through things. I think there is something to her, just, however you emote, but I think you just need to speak your truth. Just need to say what it is. Hey, listen, I don't feel like you're thinking about me. His bag of clothes means nothing, right? That's irrelevant. But the point is, like, hey, you coming back from doing an excursion with David and telling me you forgot about me after the last 2 days, us being on a honeymoon, you not even wanting to do activities with me and just doing the things you want to do is a problem. And we got to figure out how you and I are going to work in this relationship. Like, how do we negotiate? How do we compromise? And, maybe you need to, sit and figure out by yourself, like, hey, do I want to compromise? Is this something I want to work at? But early on, it's like, no, you ain't got but a couple of times to tell me, oh, we only going to do this. No, we're on a honeymoon. We should be doing joint activities together, enjoying each other. Why are you so invested in having fun with a stranger? So that would be, where I would see that conversation going better, and her not being passive aggressive and just being forward, because she's and that's I like her, because she can point to things and she can call it for what it is. But sometimes I think it's expressing it, articulating it, letting people know, setting a boundary. I'm going to accept this, not that. I think that, may be the lesson here.
That's a good call out, because she's very indirect. I'm sorry, Kojo, go ahead.
No, go for it. You actually going to say what I was going to say. Go for it.
I was going to say, yeah, she's also really indirect, and I think that's the reason why you saw towards the end she gained a voice. She was direct with Madison, direct about that, and she got she gained a voice as it went on. But I think because she's also very indirect, she was able to work with Juan longer than a lot of people. Maybe someone with my personality, I probably wouldn't have made it 3 days. I identify with Karla because we're both free spirits, but her what is it? One of my conflict management is very different than mine's. I think she peeps game and then she moves, but she doesn't say what she peeped. I'm a peep game, move, and I'm also gonna let you know why I'm moving after I moved. You know what I mean? Just so we're all clear. And I hope she learned that sometimes you gotta speak your speak, because being indirect with somebody else who's passive aggressive, you're not gonna get what you need.
Yeah, you kind of said what I was going to say, and it's going back to also what Sean was saying about the mirrors, right, between Juan and David. Well, there's actually a mirror between Juan and Karla. They're both passive aggressive. And that's why remember I was saying to you guys, I don't understand why we haven't really found out more about these two. Why have they managed to keep it together? Well, because both of them are the same people in some aspects, not in all, but in some aspects of them. So they're able to play a role where they're not being authentically all the way them. So this situation, remember I was saying to you earlier on in a couple of weeks, I said, why did she not blow up the spot? I don't understand why she agreed. Why did she agree to keep it as it is? She should have blown up the spot. She should have told the experts, let experts know that this is not working from a very long time ago. This is what I said weeks ago. But it's because, again, she's also very much like Juan in that aspect. They're both passive aggressive, which is why when Juan accused her, I said, yes, cool, but you got to look at you. You also passive aggressive as well. That is why both of you were able to kind of live in that particular space, in that aspect. But, Juan obviously here as well, not including her. It was rude. Right? It's not anything including her. It's what he said that was rude. Like, there's nothing else to it. It's just rude. Like, there's a way to say something, right? So if I said, oh, I would have been like, no, my bad. You know what? I got caught up. See, if I get caught up, me saying I got caught up and I was with David, I got caught up. My bad. I lost track of time. My bad. You know what I'm saying to you, right? But when you say I forgot about you, it is rude and it's insensitive. You know what I'm saying to you? It's very rude. It's very insensitive. And I know she was passive aggressive after. She was, because that's because she's got her own, as she said, from her own background in terms of family. That is a trigger for her because she was unseen in her own family, right? That's why she was triggered in that particular moment. But yeah, it was rude and it was disrespectful on his particular behalf. Of course, he had to apologize at the reunion, but it was rude and disrespectful at the time when he said it. You know what I mean? So I think both of them were able to make this last as long. And what's happened, I'm seeing now, is that when people are passive aggressive, this is what the result is. when you're not actually being true, it gets to a point where everybody says, I can't be bothered to be this way anymore. You go and get it. And even when they're giving it, they're not even giving it all the way, because they're still being a little bit, I don't want to be too all the way. Like they're kind of mentioning things, but not mentioning what it is. Like that's that passive aggressive. This is why we need to be more assertive. And assertiveness does not mean I have to hurt your feelings. Like I said, he could have forgotten, but he doesn't have to say that. He just said, listen, I lost track of time. It's still a kind way to say it. I lost track of time. I am sorry. I apologize. I lost track of time. I won't do that again. And then you move. You know what I'm saying too? And that's all that was required, from Juan to just to heal the process. Even if you didn't want to date her, just a sense of decency in that space, But like I said, maybe he is still growing. I think a lot of us men, when we're immature, the way that we treat people that we don't fancy or are not attracted to, sometimes is very, very mean, very, very mean, and very, very cruel. So you have to grow out of that space and become more mature. Any thoughts, John? Go for it.
I think he meant it, and that's why he meant it. And I think Juan is very business oriented. And he was sowing seeds of discord to constantly remind her. It's not exactly like negging, but it's like reminding that person, I don't want you, but it's in like a subtle way. So without him being overtly mean or overtly rejecting her, he's saying, I had more fun spending time with another dude, that I just met, that now we have a budding bromance, we got a little friendship going on, just a little undercut of, yeah, it's never going to be you, because it's day 2 of our honeymoon and I didn't even miss you. So I personally think, that was part of his continual reminder to Karla that this was never going anywhere.
Fair play. And on regards to the point you made too about nice women as well, it's important to make that very, very much known. Men don't like nice women, and that's just the honest truth. Men don't even like nice women, just like women don't like nice men. Nobody likes nice people. Nice people are fake. They're not real. They're not being authentically themselves. So that's why we don't like. That's why when you guys talk about Juan, I can see it now. What you're saying, right? Him not being authentically himself now is that nice person. It's not good. Good women and good men are always wanted. Nice people are not. The reason being is because they should be able to say what they feel about. They should be able to say from an assertive position. Somebody who's nice uses a lot of passive aggressive behaviors. So you're right, Siwe. Yes, not playing nice is not going to get you there. You want to be a good person. Good doesn't mean that I just say whatever you want. It means I'm going to stay true to my values and my morals, and that's fine. And I will speak up on that. And both of them, I wish they had spoken up, because I saw saying for the past few years, like, why did none of them say anything? Because the experts should have been on their necks. I was like, how come the experts are letting them skate past? And now we're here. Look, they're the only two who are doing interviews. Look at them. Look at these two. They're the only two doing interviews because they didn't say nothing on the show. That's the problem.
And that's exactly. Remember, I said that, Kojo. I said I called out. It was like 3 or 4 lives ago. I said everybody is projecting their reasons as to why Juan doesn't quote unquote like Karla. And I said we've never heard a reason really. What was like the last episode? He mentioned something about the crystals that didn't feel authentic, but he never gave a reason. And I also called out. I said, and the experts haven't even asked them. Like, we never received, and that was such a red flag to me. I'm like, we are all guessing. Some people talk about the white girls. He likes white girls. Some people talk about his sexuality. Other people talk about because of her job status. But we never knew because it was never addressed. And I'm like, that is the weirdest part about the whole thing, is how they skated by without actually having real. And you rarely see that with Mavs. Like, we're gonna get down to like somewhere like where the problem was, and I don't know. I thought that was so weird
because they knew that lie that couldn't come out.
Oh, that too. Oh, yes, it's
also so they knew if they touched on
let's not push too much.
Karla might be like, listen, stay off my neck because there's a lie in the making here. And Juan
we'll blow it up.
It was like, it's like mutual destruction, because Juan wasn't going to say a whole lot. That's why he was more vocal in those confessional moments and the interview, the one-on-one interviews, because he didn't want Karla to hear everything he was saying, because if she did, she might just, cock back and be like, oh, since we throw in people's reputations, what about your secret? And, she would probably never say it, but she would dangle it. And so he, so
Which
I
is
think
why, why would you get inside somebody's comments calling her lazy, saying she don't cook and clean? Like, what was he thinking? He just assumed she wasn't going to unload the clip.
Self-preservation. Sometimes you feel you're under attack, and you throw your last grenade. You know what I'm saying to you? And then you realize that grenade was a little bit too close to you. The shrapnel can hit you.
Yeah, and he also, like we talked about earlier about the nice thing, right? He knows Karla, right? So he's like, she's gonna take this L, and he thought he had enough ammunition and evidence to make her look so bad that he could take some of the smoke off of himself. But he's lucky. He still is lucky that Karla is quote unquote nice, because she did enough to protect herself, but she still didn't air him out like she could have. So she's still not airing him out, because at this point he can't do nothing to her, for whatever he says. But so he knows her character. He knows that likely she will never say whatever this big secret is to.
I hear you on that.
Now, because the way that it was edited, you're right. It sort of seemed like, is this it? You know what I mean? Like, was this comment the only thing? Like, and it's like, of course, I uplift women in their rights and wrong. So I was like, either way, whatever, she's right. Like, that comment would be enough for me anyways. But there's more than just the comment. It was the mindfulness, the lack of compromise, all of it prior.
Yeah, and it's his comments as well. Like, he said it in the reunion. Like, the husbands were making a conscious effort to get to know their wives and do kind gestures for them. They would ask them, would you like to go eat? Can I get you anything from the bar? I'm going to go grab a drink. Can I grab you anything? Juan would do none of those things. And it was one day where all at the pool, the men went to go do water activities. And one by one, I see the men coming back and hey, I'm going to go to the bar. Do you want anything? Just letting you know I'm here. And one by one, the wives are leaving to go get their massages or their facials that the husbands booked for them. I was the only wife that their husband didn't check in with, didn't compliment with, and I don't need those things. I can do those things for myself, but it doesn't feel good at all to be told I forgot about you, and then for actions to.
But let's be real too about him. Like, the lack of awareness to see every guy in the group go do something, and you think it's not going to make a statement for you to not do something, or you're just the one guy who's like, I don't need to do that for Karla.
Well,
why?
That's what he told me. He even said it out. He's like, I'm not going to do those things for you. He's like, I think it's kind of stupid that they're spending hundreds of dollars on someone that they don't even know. So, I mean, that was telling me everything that I needed to know. And mind you, even the day after the wedding, sitting there, he critiqued me for buying juices every day.
I remember that.
I'm not asking you to buy me a juice. You asked me what my daily routine is, and I'm letting you know I like to walk to go get my fresh juice in the morning. Why that's any of your concern? If I'm not stressed about it, I don't understand why you should be stressed about it.
He's like you said at the reunion, or like you said on decision day, he wanted somebody to mirror his actions, is what it seems like as we watch it. Staying on the honeymoon really quick, there was a day, and I think you guys may have went to a cenote or somewhere for a photo shoot, but I remember this sticking on my mind is palpably uncomfortable is how I would describe it. And I was wondering what was going on behind the scenes that day that photo shoot was so awkward.
I got my period.
Okay,
I got my period and I had the worst headache. I was bloating and cramping, and I'm have to be in a swimsuit on a photo shoot, and I was not feeling good.
I feel so bad for you. Oh my God.
But I was like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. I'm like, I'm going to look like a straight up puffer fish because I couldn't even go underwater.
I know exactly what you mean. And then oh my God, say less. If I'm on my period and they're go down.
And it was day one of my period. So yeah.
I am so sorry. That date should have been rescheduled, and that should have been the spa day or little back rub.
Literally. But I mean, I will say I did appreciate in the moment how he's like, Karla, how are you feeling? Do you want to stop? So, I mean, it wasn't all bad with Juan. There was definitely little glimpses of potential, but overall what he was showing me was not it. Like,
You know what? Tell me if I'm crazy, but I appreciate you saying that. But simultaneously, don't you ever just wish that there was like this nature of being like proactive and just like anticipating? Like, I personally feel like in some situations, it's great when your partner checks in and asks, like, how are you feeling? Do you like this? But when they already know that you're not feeling well, and then all of a sudden the decision lies with you to be the person that's like, you know, actually, I'm not feeling good. I actually don't want to be here. And then you feel like the buzzkill. Like sometimes it's so nice to just have a partner be like, just look over, check your body expression, and be like, you know what? This isn't that fun right now. Like, can we get out of here? And then I'm like, you would have been like, yes. So
no,
yeah, like
exactly. But I think that is a trend of his
mhm.
to say something out loud and put the focal point on me so that I'm the one that has to
Speak up for
speak
yourself.
up for myself.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've noticed watching with everybody else, or even just being in that situation. It's like, yeah, there was so many moments where Juan would put me on the spot and
Mhm.
like I would have to defend myself or share my side of the story. And it wasn't always portrayed as I would say it.
That part.
It would be like spun some like weird way when it came to like his interview. And I'm like, that's not what I said at all. Or off cameras, you already knew certain things about me. So I'm very confused as to why when we are filming, you're acting like you had no clue or yeah, that we never had this conversation. And that's what I think I noticed very early on with Juan is it's almost as he wanted to be a TV character and then be a different way in real life. And that's what was also going on the honeymoon. I was like, okay, you want to hold hands when the cameras are around? Do you want to pretend like we're vibing and we're getting along and you know everything's flowing? But in reality, we're having these conversations off screen that I'm telling him, you only think of yourself. Like you're not looking to compromise with me. Like this is literally, if it was up to him, it would be like the Juan show, like
Mm.
literally Juan show. Because I'm like, you, yeah.
Not the double and like entendre.
I guess this obviously goes back to the same thing. You know, I think it goes back to that same thing in terms of what we've been saying earlier on, that if Juan has to be accountable for being. I'll agree with this point. There's some fakeness with Juan in terms of like if you're now going on the camera and holding hands, then you're not doing it when you're behind the scenes. Then that's fake. I can't call it anything else, but that's fake. You know what I mean? If you're pretending to hold hands, show cutesy behavior on camera, but then not doing it behind the scenes, then that's fake. So I'm not gonna fight on that one. I think one has to hold that L on that particular aspect. I think it goes back to also again what I said about both of them is, then why should she not blow up the spot? This is my point. This is what I was saying. I was like, if he's doing this stuff, you got to blow it up so we can actually call him out at a time because now both of you are tied into the nonsense. You know what I mean? That both of them are now tied into the nonsense. Like now we're both in it because now both of us are now having Juan's being fake first. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Let me hold him accountable. He's being fake first, and he's lying because he never told us this stuff, right? He never let us know when he told us about why it didn't work out. He didn't say that. Hey, there was some performative aspects of my behavior where I was doing more on screen than I was doing off, right? He never let us know that, so he has to be accountable for that. You know what I'm saying, Chu? But yeah, no, just but then again, it goes back to what we said earlier on about being nice, and being nice doesn't win any awards, man or woman. We said the same thing about Alan. Stop being nice because no one win. You always lose being nice in the long term, as well. So because this should have been called out, so the experts could be like, "Yo, Juan, are you still in this marriage or not?" Like then there'll be more would have been exposed about him. But now when you play along, we play along. You know what I'm saying, Chu? The very thing that we're saying about Juan, which is that he's not being honest. Well, now you also now have to be in that same space now because now we can't call him out at a time. We have to wait till after the show to do that. So yeah, I see what you guys are saying now about the fakeness. I don't know if you wanted to add, but if you don't, it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, I'm good. I got lost in the comments.
I saw.
I don't know if Seaway, has any observations or not, but I got lost in the comments because one of those folks, they made an appearance. So, unfortunately, sometimes when you talk things and up, they make an appearance.
Wait, we found a visitor?
Yeah, just a little one, not too, but it's just, telling me about my tone and I'm prideful and I'm arrogant,
they say we could all learn something. So we appreciate the
Yeah,
feedback.
and so can they. So, I think that sometimes when, you're so quick to call out somebody else's errors and ways to be, what can you be, David Jr.? What are your flaws? Are you actively working on those?
You know what? That's such it's actually a mirror. You know what I mean? Like we're up here, right? We comment on other people. Other people feel the need to comment on us. And then sometimes you get a comment back. But you have to know that, everything has a reaction. So if I talk, let's say we discuss like the Ready Love people, whatever, if they want to address me for, my comments, if Karla and them want to address me for their comments, they have the right. I mean, everyone is human. And so when you're talking about people, all the energy that you put in the atmosphere, you get back.
Yeah, no,
unless you're
100%.
Kojo, he's saving the energy, so he's conserving his. But
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
David.
well,
Thank you.
listen,
Thank you for
and
seeing
I
my
think
side.
it's a good distinction. And the person's name is David Jr. So this isn't a shot at David, by the way, from Maths. The person's name is David Jr. So I was speaking directly to the commenter that addressed me. And I think this is a great time for this distinction, right? Because Kojo, this is his platform. So Kojo has as a responsibility to the greater community to handle things in a very specific way, right? And that's the beauty of why he brings up people like myself, Seaway, Easton, El Cid. We're freelance. Matter of fact, we're so freelance, heavy on the free, we don't get paid to be here. So guess what? Your need for me to maybe I am prideful and arrogant, but I'm here on my own free time, so I get to show up that way. And guess what? I do also take necessary steps to be considerate of other things. And what I have been trying to do, David Jr., what I was trying to do is, and you could take it or leave it, because I'm never going to make somebody think anything, but because I love this platform, love this community, love my brother here. What I have been enlightened with is some enhanced information around male privilege, misogyny. So what I have done is try to share some of that information with this community and for my especially other brothers like you, David Jr. So perhaps you might hear a thing or two and say, shucks, that's another dude saying sometimes we as men do things. Sometimes there's stuff that we need to consider. Maybe we need to treat women a little bit better, differently. Maybe we need to acknowledge our privilege. Then perhaps, David Jr., that's the message you should take away than me being prideful and arrogant. I'm not sure how that comes off prideful and arrogant if I'm sharing and talking about people that have less privilege than me, and trying to advocate for the rights of people who are less privileged, and then I'm going to talk about the Christians, right? Because the Christians want to talk about the nerve of me, right? But what did Jesus do? Jesus was among the less of them. Right? He was fighting the Pharisees and Sadducees, the people talking about the law. He came to abolish the law. So you want an early benediction? You want an enhanced benediction? That's it for that person that told me I need to rethink my benediction. So rethink the Jesus that you serve, and how would the Jesus that you serve think about the opinions that you stand on? Now, I don't know if that's you, David Jr., but what I do know is that you felt the need to tell me I'm prideful and arrogant. Well, I'll take it, because I'm prideful and arrogant about advocating for people that I feel and have experienced that get treated a horrible, horrible way. So I'm going to choose to take the hits and be a voice and be disagreed with and debate for people that are less than, because guess what? Somebody had to do it for me. So there you have it.
I just want to say, I don't think David ever needs a junior. No shade to that name, but all shade to that name. I didn't even see the comment, but let the David stand. I don't think we need a David Jr. That don't even sound right.
I mean, I thought it was quite cool. Let's
I ain't never heard of no David Jr.
Hey, David Jr., Dennis Sevilla, whatever you are, listen, I want you guys to come in through. How else are we going to grow together if we're not learning together? So, David, wherever you are, keep coming back. I want to see you here because we're going to grow together.
It's a safe space for sure.
Well,
safe space to get cussed, but definitely a safe space.
Hey, I'll talk to anybody. So, look, but just understand that, I'm going to meet you where you are. But yes, I echo that, Kojo. I agree 100%. We want the challenges. We want the people. That's what this community is about.
Trust me, he gonna come back. I like it. He gonna come back. David gonna come back. I know he gonna come back because
He ain't
he
gonna come
he
back.
like of course he gonna come back. He like a little
It probably was Easton.
his comment was a tussle comment, so he gonna come back. He like a tussle. Nothing.
That was Easton.
He's there. Listen, David, we know you're there. Drop another comment in the chat, David. I know you're still there, brother. You know what I'm saying to you. I know you're still there. You know what I'm saying to you. We know David's still there. Come through, David Jr. We appreciate you. Bring all the rest of them. You know what I mean? They're gonna learn when they're here.
So y'all hear, so when they come back, y'all hear what Kojo just said.
They're gonna learn.
Kojo's inviting these people back, and they will be back. So they can cause chaos.
Yeah, no chaos. So we can all learn. We have to all grow and learn. You know what I'm saying? See, we all got ideas, including myself. Sean is shaping me. I'm being shaped by Sean. Seaway shaping me. I'm shaping Seaway. The audience is shaping me. We're shaping them. You know, we're all being shaped. You know what I'm saying? Into a beautiful sculpture. You know what I'm saying? So David, if you're there,
learned so much from this panel. I'm always learning, receiving, correct. Adjusting, checking biases, unconscious biases, implicit biases. We all have them. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself too, And so even my mother, I done told my mama that she male identified. We done went through a whole year, and now she's unmale identified. She don't even get mad when I say that anymore. She be adjusting and growing. She loves it. She loves it now. It's been a long battle.
I need you to leave your mama out of this situation, see. Leave your mother out of this one. Shout out to Ma.
You said we learning and growing. We putting them capes down. My mama done put her cape down, and I love it for her.
I need you to leave your mom alone. Okay, you stressing her out. Leave her alone. All right.
Put the capes down, ladies.
You stressing her out. Okay, let's play a bit more.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah,
I see what we're doing there. Okay, this is making a lot of sense. So now let's go when you guys are back in Chicago. As you guys return to your daily lives and obviously everyday work stressors come back in, do you feel like you got a different Juan in Chicago than on the honeymoon even?
Yes. It was a completely different version of him after the honeymoon. And he did say he's one person on vacation and then he's another person back to reality. On vacation, he was very, easygoing and carefree, and it was just laughs, and he just wanted to have fun. Everything was like fun. And then when we got back to Chicago, it was like this rigid schedule, and it was Groundhog's Day. It was like the same thing every day. And that is fine for him if that's how he wants to conduct his life. But that is not the way that I operate. And I was only asking for someone to just accept me for who I am, the same way I would be accepting of exactly who he is.
We see Juan now, and we see him in a new relationship, and we see him talking about how he loves to dance and he loves to go out and he loves to eat tacos, and he's getting to do that in this relationship. But that's not a side of him from a viewer that it seems like you got to know.
We never got to know that side. Juan never asked me out on a date. We went out once with his friends. If him and I ever went out, which was rare. We were with either like my family or he would invite his friends. Like other couples were going on dates. They were going out to sport events. They were just doing activities together. If we weren't filming, Juan wasn't planning any dates for us, which they didn't air this. So I took initiative and I asked him out on a date just to kind of get things going and seeing if we can progress. And we went on the one date, and then that was it the entire time.
I literally had a question about this, so I'll hit it while we're.
I need her to take a hint. I'm sorry. I need her to take a damn hint. That brother did not want you, did not want to take you out, did not want to see you. Even if he lies to the experts, you got to call him out and bring him to the experts and say, hey, he said he was going to take me on some dates. He said he was going to do your tasks. He ain't do it. At that point, Karla is doing what anxious people do, which is overreaching, overgiving, and overdoing. She put an Ashley at this point. You covering that man and you didn't need to. My sis, we were reaching over. What's your thoughts, guys? And ladies? Hope should have nominated someone. Sorry about
that. If you don't want me to talk to me. I mean, not one date. Not one date. Yeah, all the signs were there, and I definitely think as nice as she was trying to be, that's definitely out of control. It's like, listen, it don't take much. You know, even David was tripping over himself trying to eat sushi with Michelle, you know, going nowhere. But he at least took her out. And I hate to give David any credit, but you know, at least he was trying with Michelle, who definitely didn't want him. And here Karla is somebody that's open to him, open to you with your little shady secret, and you're giving nothing. Nothing. Yeah, I don't like it. And I think she should have called it out.
I mean, this is just not how you treat a lady. It's not how you treat a lady. And I'm gonna leave that alone. But you know, I all I can say is, ladies, the ones that get it. You know, my people are in these comments. I ain't gotta say too much. But y'all peep game and y'all move accordingly. But a man that really, you know, wants to be with a woman, I'll phrase it that way, he's gonna treat a lady like a lady. He's gonna try to do what he can with what he has, whether that's a little or a lot. He's gonna try to make you feel special. He's gonna try to lighten your load. He's gonna, you know, do those things. If a man is treating you like another man, like your homie, like a business partner, like a roommate, you know, take that information, you know, issue spot. You ain't got to diagnose, but issue spot and you know, move around. That's not normal behavior for a man that really wants to, you know, take care of and be with a lady and treat her right. So, and that's why I say, y'all, it's not about how much money a man has. And I say that all the time. It's about what a man will do with what he has. There's so many men that may not have a whole lot, but with what they have, they gonna try to do what they can. And where they don't have money, they gonna try to spend their time. You know, where they don't got time, they gonna try to do something else. You know, a man gonna show you with his actions what he gonna do for you. So, and that's what you gotta look for. If hearing Karla say that, I'm like, come on now, Karla. I can't even identify with you here because this would have been aired out. I'm so sorry. They've been living a lie for a minute now at this point.
Yeah, listen, I think this just shows, you know what I was saying earlier on, that, you know, like when she said she was blindsided, but if I hear it, I said, sis, you might have felt like you're blindsided, but I needed you to open these eyes a little bit. Just, you know what I mean? Like, let's not live in a fantasy. You know what I mean? So, you know, if I believe that you are innocent, not innocent, but if you were naive, then it means that now I have to look at it and go like, sis, then you have to open your eyes. You know what I'm saying? If I don't say that you were playing along, then I choose everyone, which is that you're very naive and you didn't look at the situation that this person does not want you, and they intentionally withdrew a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying, Chew? Because if the man wants to, he will. You know what I mean? He didn't want to. He didn't want to. I know some of you guys saying that maybe they were in agreement. They could have been. You know what I mean? But at that point in time, Karla needed just to kind of pay attention. And if you really liked him, and this is why I say that it takes two to tango a lot of times, but still holding one accountable, I'll still hold that, is that this, again, should have been brought up to the experts. So, like, if you're really trying and you're really on it, you have to drag him in front of the experts and say, hey, he hasn't been doing this. Why am I? It's like when girls say now they're buying flowers for themselves on Valentine's Day. I need you to stop it. I need you to leave it alone. Okay? Leave it alone. Okay? All right? Leave it alone. Stop doing it. Okay? All right? And pretend that some man's bought you. He hasn't bought it to you. You know what I'm saying to you? But, like, in this instance, she's doing too much. She's overreaching, right? She's overreaching for somebody that doesn't actually want to reach back. You know what I mean? And so when you do that, that just shows that, again, sometimes that you're not paying attention to what's actually happening in the relationship, or you don't want to accept it for what it actually is. The person doesn't like you. And I think maybe she was triggered. And I don't mean that in a way of like she wants to fight somebody, but rather not to say in an arrogant way, more of a case of like it hurt that maybe he was not also showing that affection and that wanting of her, and it made her question her own self-worth. So she had to reach a little bit more further over the other side. You know what I'm saying to you? This is what happens sometimes. We get ourselves in these situations. Yes, you want to
I think he clocked his tea. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No,
sorry, I didn't know.
I was gonna say no. The Karla's problem, I think you got to it at the end, Kojo. Karla is very observant. Nothing's getting over her head. She clocked his tea, like she said, from day 2, day 3. I think she decided that she was going to be in this somewhat, I guess you could call it an agreement, a ceasefire, a truce. But I think the problem is, I think even though she was living this, like, I'm going to live this copacetic life with you for these 8 weeks, I think there was still a part of her brain that left room for maybe him coming around and maybe him changing. And I think that's the part where I feel like she left a little room to be hurt, because she clocked his tea. She wasn't surprised by anything that he was doing. But I do think a part of her was like, dang, if he sees me long enough, he'll see the beauty in me. And he kind of never came around. I think where the violation came in is that this man done breached the contract. They had an agreement to keep it cute. She kept it cute. She thought he kept it cute, but then now she's seeing all his confessionals, his shady confessionals, and then to add insult to injury, then now he's doing all of, this talking. And I think that's where the problem lied.
I think a little different. Like, I don't think they had an agreement, like, officially, like, we're gonna fake it till we make it. I think their agreement may have been like, we're gonna just always be respectful to each other. For image purposes, probably more for Juan. And then Karla just seems like, generally, she seems to be just like, she comes off very easy. So I think it worked for her. Like, okay, if we can't do anything, at the very least, we'll just be nice to each other and have a good time. But I do think she still left room for him to kind of see. And I think that maybe she could have picked up on it a little bit sooner, between the lie and then the honeymoon very early on, him being very inflexible, that this is not even somebody you want to try with, right? If you want to still go through the motions and the process, fine, but you don't give your heart, you don't leave room for that person to do anything with you. Like, I wouldn't even advise her to waste energy with doing a tantric exercise with Juan, because that's not somebody you want to build intimacy with, because he's very selfish and he's not in a position to really be a husband to anybody, So I think, like, she still was trying a little bit more than maybe she should have. And then lastly, these two comments that I really like by Waves on Swim. I believe it's a man. I hope, if I'm saying it's a man, it's not, don't, blame me, but Waves on Swim, I think of a dude with waves. But he was saying, or they were saying, I get the feeling he'd be this way, even if he was interested, he's in love with himself. I think that's true. I think Juan is a big fandom of himself, especially with all these videos that he keeps publishing. He's full of himself. And then lastly, he says, or they say, he's the prize in his eyes, and his family affirms that delusion, which I think we got to see a little bit of the interactions with his parents and how they were kind of grilling Karla. So I just wanted to highlight that. I think those are some great points.
Definitely hear that. Can't be mad at that. I'm hearing the points.
Or here in conversation, it seemed overwhelmingly like either you planned every date and took the initiative that we saw on camera, or he was planning dates and they weren't shown. So now that we know that that's not the case, my next question is, because you took on that role of planning dates and planning activities to include him in your life, do you think that his lack of reciprocity and not bringing you into his life is ultimately why he felt like you were overly spiritual, overly woohoo?
No, I'm telling you, if I didn't plan these things, we would be having business meetings every day. Like,
yes. Okay.
And I just feel throughout the entire experience, if it wasn't one thing, it was going to be another. My spirituality, my exercise, like what I do for exercise, my work, my living situation. It's like, it was literally one thing after another, like one critique that I'm like, you know what? There is no winning with this man. Like, I'm not going to allow someone to take me out of my energy and like what makes me happy. I'm not going to allow anyone to dim my light. And I felt that's what he was trying to do the entire time, to kind of take away from his incompetence. Like,
yes,
you weren't showing up as a husband, so how can I put Karla down? So it's viewed as if she's the problem and I'm not. I felt there was a lot of deflection.
After decision day, there's a moment where you guys all meet up at a warehouse and you and Juan are seemingly like on good terms, keeping it cordial, keeping it cute. Had these realizations not set in yet because you hadn't had the ability to like watch it back and have perspective, or were you already overextending yourself to give him grace in public when you felt inside conflicted about him?
Yeah, I felt like I was still trying to give him grace and space. I feel like I gathered through the experience, this person is not for me,
Mhm.
but I'm still going to appreciate him as a human, as a person, as someone I share this experience with. I think it was like it was interesting because like I said in the beginning, it was like a clear like wedge due to his lie. And then it was kind of rocky in the beginning, like the honeymoon, like the lack of consideration. And then I would say like around the month mark, that's when there was like a shift and him and I started like I think we were able to like relax around each other and we were laughing, we were spending a little bit more time together, like joking around while filming. So I think we were starting to vibe a little bit more. And then as like the show was coming to an end, all I would hear when it came to like making a decision, all I would hear was we don't have enough time. There's not enough time.
Mhm.
And like I was like, okay, if someone is that concerned about time or putting these walls, it's one thing after another. Like I feel in my heart when I meet my person, there's not going to be so many blockages. It's just going to flow. Like someone shouldn't critique me or put me down or judge me. Like that to me, that isn't love. And I'm not going to bend myself to accommodate what he wants. Like it just wasn't going to happen.
Let's go into that because not only has he like punched down on you after the show, which we'll get
Mhm.
into really soon, but on the show he took issue with you leaving your job. And
Before we get to that point, because it will be another point we discuss, can I just say that she's a little bit delusional? I'm so sorry. If after all of this we're still going to go into business and become friends after, we're a little bit delusional. We have to just call it out as it is. She's a little bit delusional. Yeah. We can say how trusting she is, but the truth of the matter is when people do that, they're delusional. They're ignoring the red flags in front of them. Juanito is a problem. I think I'm just gonna have to conclude that Juanito is a big problem. Juancho, whatever you call his name with a poncho, he is a problem. And he probably will be found out in his next relationship. But I need Karla to wake up and smell the Kenko coffee, because if she doesn't, all of this airy fairy stuff ain't gonna win you no prizes. Sis, wake up fast. Okay, we're not gonna put this. I'm not gonna just put this on Juan. If you are at the end of the show still trying to be friends when he says he wants to be friends, that's on you. You shouldn't be want to be friends with somebody who's doing all of these things to you, right? And then added to that, go into business with that person. You know what I mean? Like you felt these kind of things that were going on with him. And of course, he didn't say everything. Of course, there were some things that you had to wait till after the show. So it would have taken some time before you actually saw this show. So there were some things that you'd have missed. There'd have been some things that should have missed. How strongly he felt about certain things. But sis, you felt it throughout the course of the show. He was not trying, he was not doing. And then you built a friendship which was solely actually no platonic kiso. It was very platonic kiso. I mean, it's a made-up word, but there was no romance. You know what I mean? At some point, you're gonna have to look at it and go, if he was punching down on you, then sis, kind of just, you know what I mean? You want to, if someone said, yeah, she was protecting her energy, yeah, but then why go back into a friendship with him? Why go into business? You know what I mean? It just, yeah.
Can
That's wrong.
we also, for he who is not here today on this particular panel, but remember there was a certain individual that was on this panel when initially she decided to not be friends with him, called her vindictive for that. So I think that person needs to be called out, and he owes an apology because her first instinct was the right instinct. And I think that sometimes and I don't want to get on too long of a high horse, but a lot of times women get into this people pleasing role and wanting to be nice because they're afraid of what people will say, what men will say about them. And I think narratives like that, like saying, oh, she's vindictive because she's setting a boundary of not wanting to be friendly with him or maintain a friendship after the process, is what contributes to things like that. So I think we just have to be careful about when someone does put up a boundary, because a lot of times your first instinct is your best instinct. And then we go against ourselves for a variety of reasons. And I'm not saying that's not on her, because it is on her. But we also need to understand the narratives that we push when we talk about how things play out also contribute to why people show up a particular way. So I think that was just an important call out. I wish he was here so we could, go back and forth about it in person, perhaps another day. But I think that was an important note to mention.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you said that, Sean. And again, the work that you're doing to give voices to women's issues, I think is very important, because a lot of times if I would have said that, it'll be brushed over. But to hear a man say that, sometimes even women take the time to listen. So that's why it's so important. What they say, the importance of allyship. Allyship is really important, because sometimes you need that ally to be a voice to say things that maybe the person who's actually in that community won't be listened to. Because I definitely feel like there's some delusion there. But like what Sean said, anytime, and you see this on this channel, not like on the platform, but I mean like with the vitriol of like Michelle, and even in the community, Michelle was a butthole, right? She definitely was. But a lot of the vitriol that people like Michelle get is because they dare to say they didn't like a man. And women aren't allowed to say they don't want to be friends, that they don't like somebody. And if they do say that they don't like you, you got to be super, super polite about it. I mean, so I understand the people pleasing, even as I think I'm a very direct and straightforward woman myself. And I think even I have fallen into the trap of trying to be nice so nobody says I'm mean, or I'm the B word, or I'm this and that. And I think we really have to get past that. And that's why I said what I said in the beginning. Stop trying to be nice as women. It's not going to get you anywhere. Just say what you say. Say what you say. Be respectful about it, and move on. I always say you ain't got to be a B word. You ain't got to be this and that. Be firm. Be firm. And then move on. And that's why I'm glad we all pushed back. We all pushed back. I think we did on the vindictive part, because she wasn't being vindictive. She was being firm, and she should have remained firm, because her doing all that business stuff and this and that is actually what got them in this little online tussle right now. If she would have stayed firm and walked away, everybody could have got left alone. So yeah, being respectful and firm is key.
Yeah, I think I'm a agree and disagree. So I'm gonna agree with the general principle that there are a lot of instances with women where there is a fear component in terms of a general consensus when it comes to men, because the reaction, as we have seen in public, we don't need more to go to any further. We know this. For instance, you go to a gas store and someone, you said no to give your number, and then you're pressured. You could be beaten up. You could be hurt. So I understand those perspectives. There's a general consensus in that particular aspect where it plays a massive role in those aspects, why people say no. I think, no, in this instance, making it very specific to Karla, I don't know if that's the case, because we've already established that she already ignored a red flag at the very beginning of the relationship. And that can be because of what family upbringing she's actually come into. Now, that could be because her dad was a prick. Who knows? I'm not saying that's actually the case. Could be her mom was a prick. I don't know, because we don't have that information. But in this instance with Karla specifically, so I'm agreeing with you in terms of a general principle. In this instance, and I also agree with the Eastern thing. I never backed it, the vindictive part. I didn't think she was vindictive. Personally, I didn't think if you say you don't want to be friends with me, I was actually saying she shouldn't be friends with him. Because if you finish and I'm finished, I'm going my way. I'm not trying to have a conversation with you. It's that simple. I think she needed to learn how to be able to say no and learn some assertiveness. And that's not, I don't think that's anything with Juanito being scary or men being scary. I think that's simply because she didn't know how to be able to say no and stick to that. Sometimes people have boundary issues. And in this particular instance, she has boundary issues. That's why when people are passive aggressive, that is because you have a boundary issue. You don't know how. You have not learned and been taught how to actually assert yourself in a way that doesn't become aggressive. Because what we don't want to do is go over the line, right? And go over the line. In this instance, in a controlled environment, when you're dating someone like Juanito, as far as we're concerned, she has not mentioned anything about him being scary as a man or being fearful. He's just a prick who doesn't want to date her. You know what I mean? So I think, for me personally, where I disagreed is saying specifically, I'm focusing specifically on Karla, not women in general. I believe that this is an issue of you need to learn this critical skill. You need to learn that you can say no. You need to learn that you can actually assert yourself. You need to learn also how to have self-worth, because they're not saying no also is because of the lack of self-worth, not because of a man. It's because she hasn't learned how to say how to have self-worth. Hence why she was overreaching. So it's because you want it. So that's where I put accountability on her, so that people can also understand that when you're making a decision, it's not on someone else. There are contextual issues though. Because if that, like I said, there's different scenarios. In this particular case, for me personally, I think Karla needs to look at it and go, why did I want to say yes? Why did I want to continue being friends with somebody when I know my instincts are telling me no? Is that because there's a wider contextual issue, or is there an issue for me personally in my life and the way that I deal with people? I don't want to let them go. I want to be cool with them. I want to be liked. You know what I mean? I want to be wanted. I still want to keep the person close. Maybe I have my own agendas. You know what I mean? But whatever than that, it's a boundary thing. That's the only thing I would say. So I'm not disagreeing overall. I'm saying as a general, I agree with you guys. I'm just saying specific for me personally, I think that Karla needs to do some work on that aspect.
When you said fear, because I agree with everything that you said about, I don't disagree with nothing you said except for when you said fear, were you thinking that I was saying like fear of Juan? Because I think what
No.
Okay, because I think what Sean and I were saying is more like fear of public perception. You know what I mean? Like fear of how you're perceived, not of like her personal backlash from Juan. I don't think anybody
safety. Yeah, it's not
like safety. It's just that like saying, you know, as a woman, you have to go about things a certain way, or you're going to be labeled a certain way. And I do think that was part of her thought process. But I also think the other things that you said are also true. There's a lot of things true at the same time around here, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the same point for me as well. I think there's a lot of contributing factors. And as I've kind of dove into certain things and kind of listened to certain women talk about their experience, that's what I meant by the fear factor. Like, women are seeking male validation, right? So they know that publicly, if other men see them behave in a particular way, it's going to limit other chances. So, I don't want to come off as disagreeable. So I really don't see a friendship with this person, but maybe, just maybe, he's kind of nice. And I don't want people to look at me like I'm a difficult person. I want to be agreeable, for that male gaze a little bit, which exists out there. So that's what I was more so leaning in, not feeling like she felt threatened by Juan per se, but more so just fearful of the ramifications of just open rejection to him. So my thoughts.
I think you guys made great points. I agree with you.
I'm wondering, as someone who has not only worked for a hairstylist, but has a lot of friends who are stylists, do you feel like he either had was misinformed or just made the wrong assumptions about your decision? What was he not getting about your decision to leave?
This goes back to what I said with Juan lives in two different worlds. The real world and then TV world. Because in the real world, off camera, I told Juan days before that I was going to be leaving my job.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Off camera. So he already knew, and he supported my decision because, one, I already had a plan. Two, my friend was building out her salon. And I'm an independent contractor. I work for myself.
Yes.
So that means I can take my business wherever I'd like. And to verify, I did go to New York to fly to do my client's hair. Thank you very much. So I've always had a plan. I'm just not going to share that plan with someone who has little to no interest in getting to know me personally and only wants to focus on one thing, and that is business. I have friends that I can discuss business with. I was looking for a husband. I wanted to get to know each other on a deeper level, not only discuss what my financial situation looked like. And I will reel that into, because there's another preconceived notion that I want to be a kept woman. Like, one, who wouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
And two, I said I would like the option to work from home and take care of my children. This was all after being told, who knows how many times on the wedding day when I met his parents, that Juan was kidnapped as a child. Why the hell would I not want to take care of my children if they're all telling me he was kidnapped as a child?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, how it got flipped into me not wanting to work
Yeah.
is that like blows my mind. And what bothers me the most is that, like, with all of these things, he knew the truth always, but instead of speaking the truth or defending me, he rather just let everybody's imaginations run wild and not confirm what he knows to be the truth. He knew all along, he knew before I was quitting my job that I was going to be leaving. And yes, if I don't like one thing about a salon, I will leave because I
Absolutely.
can.
Mm-hmm.
I built my business so that I have the freedom to do whatever the hell so, like,
I get that. I completely,
like,
and that's what I perceived. I'm like, well, of course, like, or I was like, she either is an independent contractor and she works for herself and she wants to have her own stall. She has another opportunity. She's going to go to her clients' houses, or she was working a very confined schedule for the salon where she's not able to show up for these appointments because of filming conflictions.
It honestly was a little bit of both because we're filming like 6 days a week. Like, yeah, so we're filming long hours on top of working our normal day jobs. So if I'm, like I said, I'm not stressed. So I was really confused as to why he was taking this on and stressing for himself because I'm not pressed about money. And I can totally understand his upbringing and how he's more fear based.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't live my life in fear. I have a great work ethic. I know how to manage my lifestyle and I don't depend on anybody else to provide that for me. So I was upset at the fact that he was leaning more towards that and like letting that become a storyline when that wasn't the case at all.
He was leaving.
It's going to be an interesting one. I think this is the sticky point between what was mentioned as well and his own comments on the podcast as well. So, what's your guys' thoughts on this? I think it's quite an interesting part of the conversation. Let's see.
Yeah, I think this very particular point is where apologies are owed. Apologies are owed because we literally, myself, Seaway, Latoya, Linlin, were saying this for weeks. But you guys wanted her to be lazy, dusty, da-da-da-da. She expects him to take care of her. And you just were unwilling to just even acknowledge the point that it might be something other than the narrative that he was leaning into. So I think this one, I'm so glad that she made this very clear, and set the record straight because that is her reputation. And I think that if anything he was wrong for was leaning into that to try to give him, okay, this is why I don't want her. Even in his little video, he says she got fired. She clearly said, I left and I told him I was leaving days before and I had a plan. I was going to work in my friend's salon. So I just think like sometimes before we get so pressing the gas on trying to like make somebody a villain, sometimes just lean up a little bit. You might be right, but you might be wrong too. So before, you press that gas so far saying the worst about someone that, they're lazy, don't want to work, they don't get up till 8 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, let's just be careful before we start believing things that, there's more than meets the eye.
Go for it, Seaway.
I'm sorry, I popped away for a second for that one, so I missed that one. My bad.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. She just gave it a download of the situation with Juan and her job situation about her moving and her obviously, basically her job situation and moving around her business and everything like that as well.
Yeah, I heard all that, and I think that was part of the big rant that led to some of the chaos last time we talked about them, but it definitely was related to the job situation, the fact that it was very clear, her situation as a person, just as a woman familiar with that business, and to hear that she also kind of gave him the download. He knew that she was going to New York. He knew that she was planning to go to her friend's salon, which makes a lot of sense, that she had a place to go. It makes it even worse that he kind of like acted as if she didn't have a plan and she was just kind of floating in the wind. It seems like he was at every turn, he was trying to intentionally make her look bad on camera. And I just don't know why he made that choice. Like, even if they decided that they weren't gonna, be together or whatever. I just don't understand why he made that choice.
So I think obviously first and foremost, Juan's situation, for me personally, I think I said earlier on that not revealing all the information when you tell the story is lying by omission. So if she did tell you that she was moving, if she did tell you she was quitting her job, that is a lie and omission if you don't tell the story in its fullest amount, right? If you say, oh, she just lost her job, that could be true, but if you don't tell the other aspect of her saying that she was looking to leave or that, she told you beforehand, then you're being disingenuous with the information. Then you're lying. Simple as. And you're lying. You know what I'm saying to you? And I think Juan's being very clever because he used the gray area of the show and talking about only what was shown on the show, which, to be fair, it is on the show, but it's what we call using a gray area, right? So it is that aspect, right? So it's a lie because you omitted information. You know what I'm saying to you? I'll take it back. You know what I mean? I'll take it back. Calling her Dusty, I mean, I was doing that more to push back and be funny, but I'll still take it back. You know what I mean? Like, I was wrong about the dustiness and the laziness. What I won't take back is she had a plan and didn't tell him he had a plan. That's what she said. Therefore, yes, it will still seem like to the other person. But let me apologize first. I was wrong. You know what I mean? I was wrong. I got it wrong. I said that she's dusty. She ain't dusty. You know what I mean? There might be a little bit one spec, two spec here, but she ain't dusty. You know what I'm saying to you? She's pretty clean. So I'll take it back. I'm happy to take that back and rescind that. She isn't lazy. I'll take it back and rescind that particular aspect as well. I will take that back.
No, I appreciate your apology, Kojo,
yeah.
but you know what really baffles me? And this probably, you can't even answer this. Maybe you're not the person to answer this. But why, as women, are we so quick to put another woman down? Like, even when we don't have all the I just, and maybe this is something I'll never understand. It's like, as a woman, like, why would you ever be so quick to believe everything a man say? When we already know, it's just like, I'll never get that. And I feel like if you're a woman that's so quick to just always see things from a man's perspective and always just lean into that, I would have to evaluate that. I would really look into that. That's all I have to say. I mean, the fact that Kojo, no shade to you, Kojo, but the fact that you leaned into that, I mean, that's to be expected. I mean, and you apologizing is actually not to be expected. It's actually good that you say, hey, I got that wrong. I get it. The same way I feel like Throwback, I had to say, hey, as a woman, I'm always seeing things from a woman's perspective. And so I did miss that Michaela was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? Just like y'all said, y'all missed what, what's his face was doing. Zach. Zach, I definitely missed that Michaela was, cuckoo. I just didn't see it. But to me, that's to be expected. But for the women that are so quick to put your fellow woman down, I just don't get it. And I won't get it. And I think this Karla situation, if you were one of those women, because a lot of people are quiet now, I think you should think about that. You should think about that. That's it.
Well, I think, some may say I'm mansplaining, but I do think the male gaze, kind of similar to what I was talking about too, male validation plays a big role. And as I've learned that, it's something that just impacts it. And I'm not excusing it. I'm saying what could be a driving force behind the decision making. Also, if they accept that person, right? Like, let's say somebody like Karla, there's some aspects of some women, they may see her and resent her freedom because she's doing things that they may have wanted to do, but because of a myriad of reasons, pushed it down. So when they see her doing it, it's like, why can't that be me? But it's like, so it's not on the surface. It's like deep below. So, on site, they were like, yeah, I never want to be a Karla, but maybe not today at 45, but maybe you wanted to be Karla when you were 22. but your life circumstances didn't give you the freedom to be able to do that. So I think there's something to things like that. We see it in race too, because sometimes we'll see a portion of Black people that are out here advocating against our own selves. It's one of those, when you have a power structure, everybody, it's not going to be a catch-all. You're going to have some people that feel like their proximity to that power is enough for them to acquiesce their own needs to get close to it so they can get some freedoms from the constraints of it. I know I'm kind of talking broadly, but I think some of that plays into that. So sometimes when people are seeing it, so I do try to have empathy, because people are coming, and it's easy for me as a man because I already have male privilege. So I'm not on the back foot being a woman, and a Black woman at that. So I can kind of say, oh, shoot, let me think about that. That's why I know some of my male peers, you know, they'll be saying things and I'm like, but bro, you know, you're Black, right? Like, you know, you're Black, and you know that you associating yourself with X is, you're never going to be that. And you're also kind of associating yourself with people who really just don't like us at our core. So I think some of that may play into it.
Now I'm going to stand up for some of my sisters in the chat. Okay, I'm going to stand up for some of my sisters in the chat, some of the man them too in the chat. First and foremost, hey, I hear what you guys are saying. But what I want to make it clear, because this is what it sounds like on the other end. Like, you guys are, like, the ladies are always right. And that's not always the case. In this Karla situation, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because we are making it almost as if that the ladies who were saying they didn't agree with Karla are also misogynistic or male-centered. Sometimes people see things and they don't agree. I think this is where the argument came from last time. Sometimes they just don't agree. Sometimes they see it and they see it differently. So this aspect with Karla, I'm happy to say I'm wrong, because I'm wrong. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying, Chu? And there'll be other times where I'm right, and there'll be other times where I'm wrong. And I think that this aspect with the Karla thing, is why it got so heated last time, is because sometimes people are right and sometimes people are wrong. There are times where we back a man and he's wrong. There are times where we back a woman and she is wrong. And that is simply because of the way that someone may perceive it. Now, am I saying there isn't some level of male-centeredness sometimes on some occasions? Yes. Can we determine that from how people are always saying it? Not always. Sometimes you just don't agree with the person and the way they came about it. The Karla situation, if we actually look at the actual videos that was coming on, the show actually portrayed it in a particular way too. So for those people who were saying that they agreed with my particular stance, I understood, because at the end of the day, the show showed what the show showed. You know what I'm saying, Chu? And then Juan came out and said what he said. So going based on that information, I can understand why they had that particular point of view. You know what I'm saying, Chu? Now, if we're wrong, we're wrong. I'm wrong, and I apologize, and I just move on. Do you know what I'm saying, Chu? That's why I was saying about last time about the label sometimes, because they may generally just disagree. And see, someone said like willfully obtuse. I don't think that's even the case. Sometimes people just see it differently, and we have to be okay without labeling people all the time that it's this. Sometimes you just don't see it the same way that Sean will see it, or I see it, or C-Way sees it. I don't have to label anybody anything. I just say, you didn't see it the way I did. The Zach and the Michaela situation is a great example. I didn't see Zach. Yeah, that's my male privilege, but that's also because I was triggered. I've been in the situation that Zach's been in. So now I'm triggered. I wasn't thinking about because I'm a male. I'm thinking because I've been in a situation where I've been abused. So I'm triggered. And I don't see anything else apart from Zach being hurt and the ladies pushing back, and they're not seeing my point of view as well. They don't know that men can be abused. But the other side was, I was also missing the other aspect that he was doing things behind the scenes too, which is why I'm saying that, you know, for the ladies in the chat who may have disagreed, I hope it doesn't stop you from disagreeing. We should not, I don't think we should ever be at a place where women just support women just because they're women, or men support men just because they're men. I think that's a dangerous place to be, in a place to be. For me personally, I think we should all see it as how you see it. If you feel like you don't agree and I'm saying something that's wrong, you should disagree with me. It's why I like the audience as they are, because I'm a male, so they're going to just trust me. No, disagree with me if I'm wrong, if you feel like I'm wrong, because otherwise we won't grow in that aspect. I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way, Sean. I'm just saying.
Can you just pause for 1 second? Because that, what you just did, is what caused the onslaught. And I think you're missing what we're saying, because we're not saying just because you have a different opinion, you're male centered. It's not about the opinion. It's never been about the opinion. We disagree about things all day long. It is the leaning into a narrative that is not present. It is the celebration of calling her horrible names just to do so. That's what we're talking about, is the pile-on and the saying she's dusty and she's lazy and there's nothing good about her. It's that. That's what we're talking about. That's the male-centeredness, where you're going to uplift somebody else, or downplay somebody else to try to get attention from men, and we all do it. It's never nobody is ever just outwardly, most people, unless they're just inherently evil, set out to say, you know what, I'm going to be misogynistic today. It's things that are at the surface. So every behavior, and on this channel, every behavior has a reason. You don't just wake up and say, I agree with Michaela, or I disagree with Zach. You don't just wake up. Those thoughts come through lived experiences, your own biases, how your perspective is shaped, how you grew up as home, your experiences in the world. So yes, there are things that are rooted in that. It doesn't make you an evil person. It just makes, that's what's informing some of your decisions. And it's not for everybody, it's not a catch-all, but some people it is. Some people rue the day when they can see a woman and knock her down a peg. And we see it in the comments. I see it. It happens all the time. And I've even seen it more since I've been more advocating for women, because now they come at me. They come at me. So I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to being treated this way, but they come at me that way. Those people that have those thoughts, not everyone, so I think we have to make sure that, especially you, when you do that, when you say things like that, now people are like, oh, here they're doing it again. No, we're not doing that. We're not saying you have to agree with us. That's the most fun about this channel, is different ideas. We're saying that when people get so much celebration that they want to rue her tear down and make her the worst person, when we really haven't seen her that way. We've seen her as lighthearted, fun, pretty much nice, and like ditzy. That's her edit that she's gotten. Not all this dusty and calling her all types of names and stuff like that. That's not the stuff we were seeing, but people were pushing that narrative, and that's what we're pushing back against.
And actually, I love the disagreements, because I think we learn from them. Just like you said, Kojo, you realized that you sided with what's his face because you were abused. You've been in that type of situation. I realized, and a lot of women, we realized that we were siding with Michaela, because a lot of women have crashed out because we've dealt with men that were kind of underhanded or were gaslighting, and then we crashed out or were acting crazy. And so we were also looking past maybe some obvious mental health issues, some obvious stuff, because we've been on the other end of what we thought we were seeing as gaslighting, and then we reacted. And so I've been very reactionary before, and I think I tried to sympathize with her reactionariness, whatever, right? I think what Sean is saying is, and that's why I always ask questions, and people label me as a lawyer and being manipulative. I don't have a manipulative bone in my body. I'm very straightforward. When I ask questions, I want us to all learn from our disagreements. I'm saying this is a perfect example. The situation with Karla, like Sean was saying, how some people were so eager to put her down, for us to evaluate, for those who were part of it, to evaluate why they were so eager to do so. If you come to the conclusion that you just one of those people who you take the show at face value and you felt like that was face value, I mean, I don't agree with you. I don't feel like that was face value, but if that's your conclusion, fine. But I think if you do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of the people that were so eager to do that, if they're really self-reflecting, they will maybe find some, male-centeredness, or maybe there was something about Karla that they resented. It may be a separate issue. Like you said, Kojo, it may not be male-centered. It could be a separate issue. It could be a lot of issues at once. But I definitely think it's something worth evaluating. And we won't be able to evaluate anything if, we don't have these discussions. So that's how I look at it.
And listen, and the majority of the thing what you're saying, I actually don't disagree. You know what I mean? I actually don't disagree. I think the reason why I made that point again is because we have no problem being gleeful, talking about David being a basement dweller. And there's no one that can tell me that we're not gleeful about it. The point of the audience who say these things sometimes, they're not trying to take Kayla down. Sometimes they're trying to take our points down. And I think we have to make that very clear. Sometimes we're trying to label it as if they're trying to take Karla down. And it's not necessarily Karla. It is the fact that we have had points for the past few weeks, each of us. And sometimes the audience goes, I agree with that point. So the gleefulness necessarily isn't about taking a woman down. This is why I'm saying that. It's not necessarily something about taking a woman down. Sometimes the glee is because you've made a point and they're saying, actually, y'all made a point about this, we're disagreeing and this and that. So sometimes the point isn't that they're gleeful about taking a woman down or taking a man down. The same way I do not internalize it as taking a man down or putting it out there in the atmosphere that you're taking a man down when you have excitement about David. When you go railing at David hard, I'm not saying, oh, it must be that Sean just loves taking men down or see where it takes men down. I don't say that because you are making a point from your perspective. You're passionate about it. And if the audience also say that they are excited about saying basement dweller in the chat, which they have been saying for weeks because we said it on the panel, I do not have a problem with it because at the end of the day, this is what you feel. If David was here now, he might feel disrespected, whether it was the truth or not, because we were excited about saying he's a basement dweller or calling him Dusty. And we were excited. So I'm saying that I'm not disagreeing with a general point that there are people who can be, because when you actually said it, you said the women, and this, I'm going to make it clear. When Sean said it, he said the women in the chat who were excited about taking her down. And I said, well, there may be some. It doesn't mean that that's actually happening. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you're making a point, I'm making a point, and they want to disagree with the point that we're actually making. And they're excited about taking down your point, not as a general that they hate the other person or hate women or hate men or disagree that. So that's what I'm saying to you. Like, this was done with David.
I understand, like, and I think that's why I said it earlier. Like, your job is different than ours, right? Like, you are covering and looking to cover people, right, and your general audience and protect them to a certain extent. I don't want to speak for Seaway, but I'm not. And I'm not talking about Kojo. We have been on this channel for years. People disagree with me all day, every day. I don't care about somebody having a different opinion. It is the way you go about it. And it is also them ruining the celebration of something that's not even true. It is a false narrative that they are willing to embrace. And there's a reason they're so celebratory of embracing that. And whether it's my point, Seaway's point, there is a reason why some of them, not all, but some of them that celebrate that, there's a reason that they do it. And I also just want to say, we got to stop this one-to-one, because I know at the very least, you know that David and Karla are two different people with two different sets of privileges. So we can't always both sides things. And I'm never going to come to a position where I feel like I'm going to say, oh, just because we do it to David, we got to do it for for Karla. No, they're two different people with two different life circumstances. They make different money, just historically, not them as individuals, but just individually, they have different sets of financial trajectories. So women financially have different opportunities and are not, they're on the upswing now, but they aren't historically. So that part, we're never going to do a one-to-one for those two people. And I just think, like, lastly, people want to, if you hear me saying my opinion now and saying what I'm thinking, right? And you want to attack me, you definitely have a problem. And I will never stand on that. I will never budge on that. If you're hearing what my opinion is saying today, right in this moment, or any other live, and your instinct is to call me insufferable, your instinct is to tell me I need to be removed, you're calling me names, you're calling Seaway out of her name, you're denigrating her, you're denigrating other people for our opinion, no, you got a problem. You got a problem, and you need to unpack that. And I will never cover that. You know what I'm saying? Like, anybody that does that, those are the people that half the time I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, I barely even respond to somebody who says, oh, Sean, I think you're wrong about that, and this is why. I could care less. Go for it. You might be right. It's the person that starts talking negatively, nasty, using adjectives to describe me. You know, I'm not fodder for your breakdown. We are here to talk about our opinions and our POVs. And I think sometimes that's just what gets upsetting, because just the same way you said they get to be protected for their opinions, we should too, because we are just telling our opinions. People shouldn't be attacking us for sharing our point of view. You know what I mean? Like, we never get in here and just yell at somebody because they disagree. No, it's because you are attackful. You are telling me something about me, using adjectives to describe me versus disagreeing with my opinion that you don't agree with. And if you do that, then you got a problem. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Because I watch a whole lot of YouTube other than this channel, and there's never a person that I agree or disagree with where I feel like I gotta get up there and berate the person or take them down or try to knock them down a peg. I just turn it off, or I don't listen, or I move on.
And you're absolutely right. Listen, no one should be attacking you, or rather, I should say, no one should be calling out your name, attacking characters when it should be talking about the actual conversation we're talking about, which is specifically what has been said. So I agree with you, which is why when you rail at them, I don't say anything. I just let you go on with it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you and see we're going at it earlier on, I didn't say anything because at the end of the day, hey, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Too, we're all on the panel together, and it is frustrating sometimes when people say some stuff against you personally rather than talking about your actual point. When I said about people talking about your point, I was talking about specifically your point, by the way, not necessarily when people are talking about you as a person. Like, no one should be talking about you as a person. Do you know what I'm saying to you? But I think you can help me. I think you can understand when I say that if we're this is where I'll say that the double standard does not apply here. If we call someone a basement dweller and take glee in it, it is no longer about the fact. It is that we are enjoying the fact we get to call him a name. He's a basement dweller. It is something that, even if it's true, you can be hateful in your truth, right? The red pill has a lot of truth, but they do it in a hateful way. So when we're saying basement dweller and getting excited about it, we don't now come out and say those women or those men who say those things are necessarily those people who don't like men or women. We get excited about it because it's a point that you guys have made. And now all I'm saying to you is the double standard can't apply here. When you're being mean, and that could be considered mean. If David was in the room now and we were saying he's a basement dweller, rather than saying, actually, David, because you live in a basement, right? This is actually an issue because if you get married, No, we labeled him a basement dweller and then used it as a fodder and joke. Did we not? Would you agree that?
Yeah,
We definitely did.
The difference is I wouldn't fight with you about it. Okay. But I'm not going to fight you on it.
But the point of the matter is, you're fighting. No, you're not fighting me. I don't like the word fight because you're not fighting me.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree.
Sorry, apologies. Apologies, but I said you're fighting. You're not fighting.
Yeah. I mean,
we are disagreeing. We're disagreeing in this point because
I wouldn't. You know what? The difference is the way some people push back. I wouldn't. If you said, Sean, you're being mean, you are intentionally going after David because he's a guy and he lives in his basement, I wouldn't argue with you.
But
I
also,
I wouldn't label you hating men. But I wouldn't label you hating men. But I wouldn't label him hating men. Even, you see, that's the point. I'm saying to you that it's not that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. What I'm saying to you is I wouldn't label you as somebody who doesn't like men. Or I wouldn't say if Seaway said it. If Seaway says it, I'm not going to say Seaway, you don't like. And here's my thing. It's not the fact that it's not factual. Right, we're not talking about whether it's factual. We whether you want to say it's factual or not, the term is used as a joke and it becomes mean. And we agree with this point. It does become mean because we would not be saying this to the person's face. We wouldn't. Yeah. We wouldn't make that kind of joke to their face.
Can I just respond? Where your analogies is
okay.
Breaking apart, Kojo. The reason why the issue with David, the basement dweller joke, mean joke, whatever it is, came up because people were trying to explain why Michelle did not want him, and explain it was in the context of people were going at Michelle and people were saying, no, he's a basement dweller, like to emphasize she has a right not to want to be with him. Like he has all this stuff going on, and then yes, it continue to then he was cheating, whatever. The issue with Karla is that Karla did not do anything to deserve that type of energy. Nothing. What negative did she do to deserve that type of energy?
Oh wait, I don't know if you were asking me. I thought you were.
No, I am.
Like, what did she
deserve? How does she deserve that type of energy?
Well, according to what we had seen on the screen, we hadn't heard her. She took a job. She quit her job at a time. At a time, by the way, it's at the time of the information we knew. She quit her job without telling him for at the time. At the time, also she didn't get a lease for her new apartment. Okay, all right. And also, hey, I think that's the main two. That's really the main two. I think for most people, is the main two, and then the plan thing, which she actually just confirmed. The plan thing, which was she didn't really necessarily had a plan. So that was what the joke is, which is that she doesn't have a car, she doesn't have a job, she doesn't have a house, she doesn't have a plan. So what did David do that's negative? Aside the cheating, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking specifically about the basement. What did he do that was negative?
So the basement dwelling really kicked off though after he was cheating and after people were making fun of Madison I'm not saying they didn't say it before, but people started going crazy with the basement dweller when they were saying, why would Madison want a basement dweller? That's really when it went crazy.
And I also would just add that people have different expectations of men going into a marriage versus a woman. Doesn't mean a woman gets to be broke and we love it, but it just means that we expect that men are going into a marriage being more financially stable than they are. David also had a lot of things going on, and it wasn't giving that he was independent. Being 36, 37 years old and still living with his parents, and what appeared to be to some giving excuses about why his living situation was what it was.
And giving lies. It also gave that he was giving lies.
Those are all those things. And again, I just want to go back to what you said. I wouldn't fight it. I wouldn't disagree with you if you said, Sean, you're mean and you're kind of going in on men, because I am. So I can acknowledge when my behavior is leaning into a bias, because as of late, I am looking at men's behavior with a different lens and a more of a microscope where I'm examining that behavior. And then I'm also looking at myself and seeing things that I did as a man and how I moved in the world as a man and how I also manipulated things as a man. So yeah, you might be able to call me out and said, hey, yeah, there's some things about you that looks like you biased towards, being, extra tough on men, because I am. And sometimes it might make me mean. Sometimes it might make me a little curt. But I also know that men project themselves to be strong. Men project themselves to be, willing to take all and to not be frail. That is the projection that we put out in the world. So why would we be so upset if one amongst us is calling us out for some things that they see? And I might not be right on everything. Hey, sometimes I might be wrong. Sometimes I'm overshooting, but I do have an implicit bias. And I think that people also need to understand and unpack the implicit bias on the other end, because the implicit bias, when it's done to women, is a whole lot more damaging when men hate on women and when society hates on women than it is when men get the reverse. It does have impacts, but is nowhere near as impactful as it does when it's on the other side.
Hey, listen, whilst I agree with that, I think we need to be very careful, because this is how something happens, and then we'll be saying RIPs and sorry to the person. Everybody has mental health. So what I'm describing specifically is not when you call out someone, Sean, and their behavior. I have no problem. If you're going to go harder than men, we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to challenge you a little bit, but I actually don't think it's a bad thing that you go hard on the men. In fact, we did it with Cisco. We went hard on Cisco, right? What we didn't do was now start calling him a basement dweller. What we started talking about was the fact that him not in a financial position is a problem. That's talking about specifically relational dynamics. What I am focusing on specifically is that when we call someone a basement dweller, it's not about being factual. It's about being an insult. That is now insulting someone. So I'm saying to you, the same way we took glee in that, right? If we go and call out the fact that people were doing things for the Karla situation, right? We should be calling out for the other way. We don't call it that way because and you said a very beautiful thing, which is why I have a problem with this. If you're a man, you project, you're supposed to be strong. Well, you and I both know, as we're both intelligent individuals, calling people names is not going to be something that's going to be going down well for anybody. It's hurtful, whether you're a man or a woman. Right? So we can't pretend and say now that because a man is strong. No, we know that it hurts. Right? So I'm not gonna say, oh no, it's okay. No, if we're gonna be saying that we're okay with certain behaviors, let's call it all out then. Because if we're gonna do that, we can't start now insulting people. Factually, call it what it is. David was living in a basement. That is factual. Calling him the basement dweller now doesn't go into factual because now we're using it in a particular way to be insulting to the person. For instance, saying someone is broke, they may be factually broke. But when you start using it in a particular way, it becomes something of an insult. We're now going overboard. And that's what I'm talking about. So when we say that someone said Karla is dusty, yeah, some people would have pushed back because they would have had an argument and seen that some of us were agreeing, some of us were disagreeing, and some of us were looking at it going, okay, well, it turned into a bit of fun. I even put us on a panel and put us on different sides and made it fun. So sometimes what I'm saying here is, if it's factual, I am not saying that this is wrong. What I'm saying to you is, it gets to a point where we get into a point of glee, and you're right, but it goes glee on both sides. And it's painful on anybody's side. Because if it was you, Sean, and you know how it feels, if I labeled and called you a liar, you know how it felt. When I got labeled, I know how it felt. No one's free. It hurts when you get labeled something, or when you get insulted. It hurts. So let's stop the insults then. Don't talk about people doing it being they are male centered or female centered or anything like that. Just call it what it is. Stop calling someone stop insulting someone. If it's factual, call it what it's factual, but then don't use it as an insult for a man or a woman. That's my kind of thing. It's like, we can't hold it like and say it's double standard. There's no double standard here. If you insult someone, it's painful whether you're a man or a woman.
Right. But the weight of the insult is different. And again, I'm not arguing with you. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. I'm telling you 100%. Like, if I insult David, if I call him a basement dweller, I can acknowledge that it's me. I can acknowledge that it's not the nicest thing to do. I'm not going to fight you about that. I'm not going to fight you at all. And I think on the other side, we need to do that, and not calling people names is, respectful as that is sometimes, that's not going to take the behavior doesn't go away. Male-centeredness, it is alive and well. That's how the world operates. That's how the world gets to operate the way that it does. So you removing a word or trying to police what a word somebody can or cannot say doesn't take the mentality, because it's the way somebody thinks. And a lot of it is out of our own control, because we're birthed into this world. We have to kind of look at things different ways and at different layers, and different people are going to do different things. And some people are going to be happy with the way it exists. And they could exist in their bubble. I'm not going to stop them from thriving. They can keep trucking along. But what I won't do, and this is what I find on the other side, like, men have a heart. They want to fight and scream, I'm not misogynistic. No. You're just doth protest too much, as Shakespeare says. You just get so consumed. And I have been that person. When I showed up on this channel, anytime a woman said, oh, these men out here, you fill in the blanks, whatever they said, I got defensive. I'm a good guy. I don't do that. You can't say all, say some. That's her experience. And guess what? Maybe I wasn't that, but there was other things that I was. And it doesn't mean all women are right. I think I don't want it to ever be represented like, oh, all women are right. Women never make mistakes. That's like ridiculous. Everybody is human. Nobody is God. None of us walking on earth are gods. So we all are flawed. Me, any woman that's my friend, Seaway included, knows, if I don't think you're right, I'm damn well going to tell you. I'm not going to mince my words for telling anybody anything. So I just think that's anybody that knows me, that's not who I am, and that's never going to change. I just have a different perspective and a lens on how I'm seeing the world. So I think that, that's just that. I want to make that clear. A lot of men, they want to fight the misogyny. They want to fight it. And instead of leaning into, hey, you know what? There is some truth to that, and you think about that. People like Malcolm X saying this, making those bold statements like the Black woman is the most unprotected in the whole planet. You don't get to how that sits until you dive into that and you look at the historical references and how society has done things. So yeah, it shapes the way I feel, and I'm going to lean into empathy before I come hard and start criticizing a woman. But just like we talked about Karla, I talked about things she could do better. I talked about there were opportunities. We were able to vet out that conversation and talk through it. But I'm not going to polarize and say she was wrong and Juan was right. I will never do that, because I don't believe that to be the case.
What a good back and forth.
Which I really understand. I just want you to be understandable that I don't put a double standard on when it comes to insults and stuff like that, because men are affected. Men commit suicide too. So I'm not gonna ever play that game where we're gonna put it's a double standard because women are more affected. If someone passed away now and it's a man, we're not going to have another chance to say it back again. I'm not trying to cape for man. I'm making it very clear that we don't have to do that. If you're talking about points that are specifically misogynistic, that is fine. You call those out. That's why you're on the channel, because you're going to always call it out. You're going to call us all out, by the way. So we going to take it. We're going to have to take it. Do you know what I'm saying to you? That's why you're here. But I'm saying to you that if we're going to do that aspect, right? That what the example we just had about saying someone was gleeful, it was done on the other side. And I'm not going to say that they're more accepting, they're going to be more okay with taking it. It's not going to be more okay taking it. No one's going to be more okay taking it. No man, no woman's going to be okay having a bunch of people, 400 people in the chat. Oh, sorry, I'm exaggerating. 300. I apologize. I exaggerated. That was a bit of a lie. You know how men are. But no, but you're not gonna, no one's going to be okay with having those many amount of comments gleefully chatting about that right now. And I'm saying that because when we said the basement dweller, people also latched onto it. And fine. We did not label those people now as being centered. When we talked about, and specifically one about the Karla thing, is because we called her Dusty. I'm wrong about that. She's not Dusty. I've looked at it now. We've seen the evidence. She's not Dusty. Okay, we take it back. We apologize. We move on, right? But at the time when we had the evidence that we saw, yeah, we're gonna call it Dusty, right? And other people are gonna laugh about it.
These people who were saying this were not being the question about whether they were male centered.
You don't know that though.
Was not just about one comment. It is the same people who were so gleefully excited to call Karla Dusty that always leap to the male side, which is why the male centered question was a relevant one. And a lot of times when people are male centered, like I say in my own family, they don't like that. It doesn't sound positive until they actually really do the work and they realize they are male centered. And a lot of people, I would say 45, 40 plus, were raised to be male centered. I mean, and so it's not like an inherently bad thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. Being male centered is a product of a lot of our environments. I feel like me in my 30s are one of the first generations to put the cape down. It's actually like a running joke. Like, our mothers were raised to be male centered, and they are less probably male centered than my abuela, who's probably less male centered than my great grand. I mean, it's generational. And so, yes, there's going to be people, even in this comment section, depending on the age range, there's lots of different ages in here, that are going to be more male centered than others. I'm just not going to tiptoe around that, because I feel like as women, we need to protect each other. But also, I took the feedback, right? And so when we were talking about Cisco, I tried to, one, I resonated with his human experience, but two, I didn't leap to call him out of his name because I felt like that was a mean thing to do. And I think a lot of the women in the chat actually were very kind. Not all, but most, I would say, were very kind and covering of Cisco and didn't call him names. And I think that was a good thing. I think we do have to remember that men are human, and we should watch the name calling, especially because a lot of people in this economy are down and out. But I do think people leap to the basement dweller comment, one, because it was catchy, but two, I think it was in a pushback to kind of explain a pushback as to why David was not desirable, because there was a push, as you know, again, by a lot of male-centered people and men and other people who were trying to push David as being a big catch. And I think, like you said, people go hard when they're trying to push their other point. I think the other side was trying to push, no, he's not a catch. Actually, he's a god dog basement dweller. Yeah. So that's my thing. But I get what you're saying.
I appreciate it. No. Listen, I appreciate all of it, because I think this is a good conversation. It's needed because they're different perspectives. You know what I'm saying to you? I think it's needed. So I appreciate you having a conversation with me. You know what I mean? Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, no, I think that we live in who says, is it James Brown? It's a man's world, right? That's the song. It is a man's world. So for anybody to not be male centered, it's very difficult. We live in a patriarchal world. For those, most of us who worship, and especially those who worship Jesus and God is depicted as a man. and he is a being, right? But we call him a man. That is patriarchal, right? So our world view is shaped by being male and man identified. There's going to be no one leaves this unscathed. So that's why I try to always, every time I have these conversations or I talk about it or I highlight an example, it is me too, because the world I live in is that way. It is my mother. It is my siblings. It is, I mean, not the siblings, the siblings that I don't have. It is my family members, right? It is all these people that collectively have these views. Some people, you know, unpack them more. Some people's experiences are different, so it shapes their opinion different. But the world we live in is just that way. So no one is going to be clean. And sometimes it shows up in the way we joke. Sometimes it shows up in how in our relationships. It's a bunch of things. So, you know, I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing in the world. I do think like that celebration, it comes from a place. It comes from a place. And if I'm celebrating David the basement dweller or calling him that, yeah, I'm celebrating because I'm like, yeah, we need to call out the male behavior. We need to call out those guys that live in their basement and try to sell a dream to a woman, but they really don't have anything and they want to eat off of women. And I'm sorry, from what I see of David, it looks like Madison is taking care of him. He's admitted she's the breadwinner. So he is okay with being taken care of by a woman. That's not something I would want for anybody, any woman that I love. So yeah, if he's being called the basement dweller, it's mean of me. And yes, am I taking some joy in it? Yeah, I am, because he needs to be called out, because there's a lot of guys that do exhibit that behavior, and it's manipulative. It is somewhat, it could be financially dangerous and destructive for that woman, because she's taking care of a grown man that should be doing that for himself.
But do you see what you just did there? No, wait. Do you see what you just did there?
Uh-huh.
The same thing that we did for the Karla thing is the same thing you did for the David thing. This is exactly what I'm saying to you. You. That's what I'm saying. The reason why I had an issue with it is when you group, and you don't say some people, or you just group people that if they have that opinion, I'm sorry, but then there's male sentiments in the world. So automatically, what gets heard is you're not grouping some. You're saying if you have that viewpoint, you're male centered. But you just made a great point, right? He's getting taken care of a woman. Patriarchy is a part of that, right? And when I say patriarchy, in the sense of what we agree to, what a man's role is, because you're actually pointing out patriarchy again. You ain't leaving it. You're gonna have to agree to it. So the whole point is, if he's getting taken care of by Madison, there's nothing wrong with that. Because again, if you're trying to destroy patriarchy, you're gonna have to remove those particular gender roles that are also attached to patriarchy. But I'm not agreeing. I'm not against that. I think there's some parts of patriarchy that need to stay. Okay, all right. Some parts have to stay. Okay, but the parts where it negatively affects women, I agree. I'm not gonna be mad about that. You know what I'm saying to you? I'm gonna be with you, and I'm gonna fight alongside you. We're gonna link arms together. We're gonna walk down the street together. We're gonna kumbaya. Okay. But my thing here is I'm not disagreeing again. Be hard on the men. You can be hard on them. I'm not gonna fight you on that, bro. Again, but it's the grouping that I'm having an issue with. It's a grouping, and you're saying that you say that David is definitely for you is definitely manipulative. It's the same thing we will do in the Karla thing. If it now comes out that David actually, let's say for instance, the property they bought, we don't know if he did or didn't buy the property. We don't know. We don't know if it was her or whether it's her friend. But you're gonna make that opinion. That's fine. You're gonna make that opinion but you don't have the same way that you're. Yeah, he said she's a breadwinner, but he never said she bought the property. He said she's a breadwinner. He said, but he didn't say that she bought the property. So again, we're making deductions that he's going to be manipulative because he's deciding that he wants her to be that he's allowing her to be the breadwinner, and you are making your point based upon that, and that's fine. Again, once more, but you see the same thing that we did about the Karla thing, and people are saying that we had no evidence or people didn't have evidence. It's the same thing we're doing here. We don't have all the facts here, but it's okay.
You're making one, Kojo, and I'm also not fighting you. You're fighting me. I'm not fighting you. I'm disagreeing. And people can whatever. We don't. You're disagreeing with me with each other.
We're disagreeing, Sean.
It doesn't matter. No,
so you're fighting me. So saying you're not fighting me because you're disagreeing with me.
You every time I make a point, you tell me this is. But no, we got to do it because you're not doing this for Michelle or you're not doing this with Karla, and you're taking glee with this. And I told you from the start. I acknowledge that it can be mean. I acknowledge that I'm leaning into a double standard. I acknowledge that. I'm not denying it. I don't believe that men and women are the same. And I do think men need to be held to a higher standard. And I do more so lean towards calling out men's behavior than I would a woman. I am. I'm telling you, I am biased.
I'm
And
not
I
mad
am
at that.
leaning into a double standard. And I'm not denying that. Yeah, I'm not denying it.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's an issue. My issue is not that. My issue is if you're gonna, I came back to the same point, which was about we talked specifically about insults, not about your commentary. Your commentary is fine. We're never gonna agree on that because we have different
The
points of view when it comes
insult
to
too.
commentary.
The insult too.
See, that's what now, but that double standard for me can't work. I'm sorry.
For you.
If wait, hold on. The reason why it can't work is because people are human beings, whether they're a man or a woman. So see, this is where I feel like you're going a bit far. If you start insulting a man or a woman, I don't put a double standard in this. You are being rude and disrespectful, and that's hurtful to the other person. We cannot start putting this, if you're a man or a woman, as if someone's one stronger. Mental health is a big thing in our now modern day. So if we're now saying that no, because it's women, because you're a man, you can say whatever you want to say as an insult, then we are definitely disagreeing. When the other stuff is fine, we're definitely disagreeing. I will never work with that because people are human beings. So I wouldn't just start insulting someone just because they're a man.
I don't know
or
why you want to take my words and make it that. I'm agreeing to what you said because you called it out and you said you can't say, because how this started was when Seaway mentioned, let's begin at the beginning. Seaway mentioned that there were some women that really, and she didn't understand why some women in the chat, not all, some of the women were taking issue and pride and having gleefully looking to just rip her to shreds and call her other names. And she didn't understand why other women would be willing to do that to another woman. I am the one who gave some examples about why I think that could be the case. It's not 100%. It's my hypothesis. It's what I've come to, and and I do believe some of it to be true. I also believe that there are double standards. I do think insulting women is more celebrated than it is for men. So yes, sometimes I will lean into an insult for a man quicker than I will for a woman because I know women being insulted carries more weight and is more celebrated in our society. It is much, much more celebrated. And when we do that for men, it is challenged. And just like now, there are people who are not willing to lean into the fact that they do some things that are biased. I am willing to, on the other hand, say, yeah, I can acknowledge that there's some biased things that I've done on both sides of the table. But a lot of people aren't. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people will dare not look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? What is forming and shaping my opinion? And could some of that potentially be male-centered? Could some of it be based on the world we live in? And some of it is. It's not 100%, but that just happens to be my opinion.
I'm gonna take Seaway's word and say we're gonna circle the drain because we ain't gonna agree. We ain't gonna agree. You know what I'm saying to you? So we ain't gonna agree. So
we're not convincing because in the midst of this conversation, I see people there's still women who haven't heard a word I said. They're still reaching. They're gonna darn near and dislocate their arm reaching to actually try to defend poor men behavior and male behavior. So honestly, we're all circling the drain because until you're willing to actually kind of look inward and say, hey, I'm gonna chew the meat and spit out the bones, then we're not going to get anywhere. I heard everything that everyone said. I think there's definitely things that can be learned, things that can be picked up. I always try to keep it, take a nugget or two from every conversation and see what I can do with it. But I realize that I think I'm unique in that way. People think I stand in my point. I actually don't. I listen, I hear, I evaluate, I try to continue to grow. But I see that very few people are like that. So many people want to stand on their own too. They're very stubborn. And they don't want to listen. But what I will say is that a lot of us are using talking points that sound like, the Republicans and white people that we say are racist. If you say things like, that's just my opinion, or, like how a lot of people say, hey, this is just my politics, or this is just that when they're trying to defend blatant racism, segregation, discrimination, or that's just my religion. Those things don't hold up. We all have reasoning for things. things are based in things. And so, yeah. And I don't care, like Sean said, I don't care if somebody disagrees with me, but I'm always going to attack the source of the disagreement. And until we can talk about the source of the disagreement, then what are we even talking about? What are we even talking about?
Yeah, and I mean, I think I just also want to be sensitive to the fact, like anybody, especially because people on the live chat who have been here, they're kind of getting it. Some people watching the playback or coming in a little bit later, never my intent on trying to sell somebody on what I believe to be true, right? I say what I believe, and this goes for Kojo, Seaway, anybody. I say what I believe to be true. I go based on what my analysis tells me, and then that's what I speak on. You know, if somebody is offended, hurt, or bothered by something I say, we can address it depending on what it is. You know, I'm willing to acknowledge it and deal with it if I you know, came across anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. Never my intention to do so. But, you know, I'm never trying to sell you or make you think it, you know, make you think what I think, because how I got to think the way I think is a unique way. So you're never going to do that. So please continue to think whatever you think to be true. And you know, I'm going to always do the same. And then lastly, Linlin made a great comment. And I think this kind of highlights my enlightened like perspective in terms of like where I am enlightened for me. I'm not projecting for anybody that needs to be enlightened or I'm better than anybody else, but my personal enlightenment, because words matter and people just love to pick my words apart sometimes. So what I'm saying is I choose not to, at this stage in my life, punch down. So on the power perspective, women aren't as powerful and don't have the same privileges as me. Doesn't mean women are worse than whatever. It just means from the power perspective, I have more privilege. So I'm more willing to meet my level, which is another man, and take that man on or overly criticize that man before I punch down and start criticizing a woman, because it's easy for me to do that because I'm looking down at you on the power perspective, you know, because women are equal. I believe in that. But on the power perspective, for me to look down, it's like a bully. You know, it's like a bully. It's like, oh, I know I'm stronger than you, so I'm going to just look for every opportunity to get you. You know, so I lean away from that and I go to the men who are my equal, you, Kojo, Easton, whomever, Trey. I want to make it be known that I'm going to challenge you because you and I are on the same level. You know, and that's the same way where you will be more engaged with an argument or a disagreement. You will allow it to get escalated because we are both men versus wanting to do that with Seaway or another woman guest. So that's my approach from a critique standpoint, just if that makes it more clear.
And I think it was fascinating what people said too, because when they saw you, when a lot of the women, I'm not even talking about the men, but a lot of the women, even unfortunately, when they felt like you were silencing me or coming down on me, it was very sad to see some of the women being happy that they felt like a woman was silenced or that, you know, that'll shut her up, you know. It's very interesting. I'm like, this is like a very, you know, like, it's like about time you shut that girl up, because I think having women have a voice, like Sean said earlier, for some people, they're not accustomed to that. Even for women, they're not accustomed to that. And so a lot of times, even women are trying to uphold what they feel like the power structure is. Being quiet, you know, like women shouldn't be doing all of that, you know, they should. And yeah, like Gia said, she's seeing, yeah, like, you know, they shouldn't be speaking up, you know. About time you shut that loud girl up. I'm not even that loud. I just say what I want to say. I don't even yell. So, you know, I think it's just something to think about. And like Sean said, he has his angle. I think my angle as a fellow woman who understands what we go through and how hard it is for us to be bold, how hard it is for us to be different and speak our mind and have a voice. When I see other women basically trying to, and I guess I saw that in Karla, kind of like speak ill on her freedom or speak ill on her flexibility or just whatever, I was just a little disappointed, because again, I'm a woman, so I'm coming from a woman's perspective, because I feel like all women should know how difficult it is for us. And I think most women will tell you it's even harder for us to be women in this society than it is a black. Like being our womanhood affects us on a day-to-day more than our skin color. And most women will tell you that, not all, but most. So when I see us not just being mindful of that, whatever. But like, I don't just ban with all women, like there's a lot of women who felt harsher about Michelle than I, right? I didn't leap to call them male identified because they had a difference of opinion about Michelle. I never did. There was a lot of people who disagree with me about Michelle. That to me is understandable. I kind of understood Michelle from a different angle, but a lot of women were jarred by her cruelness in their opinion, or curtness, or condescension, and so women are definitely allowed to call out women. They're not above approach. But it was just the way in which people will go out of their way to bring another woman down a notch, I think is unfortunate. Because in this society, we should realize that, there's only going to be a few Seans that are going to stand up and say something. Otherwise, we're kind of all we got. And that's why the 92% were in lockstep. Most of us get it, most of us, are girls, we're going to get it. But I just be trying to just, claw at that other 8% so you understand that the society that we're in, we need each other. And the way that we talk about each other matters. And like Sean was saying, the way people were so quick to call Karla lazy, which was unfounded, had a profound effect. She said even on her business. I mean, to the point where she had to really say, hey, like, you guys are affecting my business. I mean, all this basement dwelling, let the people in the comments tell it. David's been just fine. I can't speak to his mental. But it looks like him being a basement dweller has had very little effect to him, which actually is very symbolic of this conversation.
Hey, listen, it's cool. I love different opinions on this panel, so I'm always gonna, and I love a debate, so that's why I found myself in the best space. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm gonna agree with points of, I'm gonna agree there's some points in here. I'm also gonna disagree with some points in here. So, I think we're always gonna agree to disagree at some points, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like we're never gonna always agree, and that's what makes the panel unique. You know what I'm saying to you? That drives people here to come and see the conversation as well. You know what I mean? I'm on my own personal journey, and maybe that's why I'm also in a space where I am. I'm trying to be a hub for both men and women. I don't want to be a hub just for women. It doesn't make sense. If I want to change men, I cannot change them without bringing them into the space. And that also means for me personally, there are certain things that I wouldn't let run anymore. So if we're insulting people, we're not insulting anybody, man or woman. For me personally, it's a rule. I don't think anyone should do that. If it's a man or woman, keep it factual. Let's keep it commentary. Let's say that we disagree. Let's attack the points. Let's not attack Sean and Seaway. Like if we're doing that in the chat as well, if you're doing it in the after chat, I don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying to you? They have the power to delete you anyway. So to be honest, you say it and you might not find yourself commenting again. So you know what I mean? I don't even see you. By the time I don't even know it's happened. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So that's how much power they have. So if you go and insult them, just know that you go and find yourself blocked and deleted, and I won't even see it anyway. So there'll be no point messaging me because I won't even have seen it, right? So for me personally, it's a
they love running to your DMs. Seaway blocked me. Sean blocked half the time. 80% of the time, I ain't even blocked you.
So they definitely ain't gonna see that aspect. You know what I'm saying to you. So, but a good point by April. Yes, no, I'm not gonna pander to men. What I am is understanding a bit more empathy, as in how they are affected. So the same way I'm able to understand how women are affected, I'm also able to understand that there's certain things that as men we are affected by. Like for instance, right now it's a predominantly women audience chat. When we do make jokes about men, those men in the chat are not your president. They are your normal people, and they can't come into the space because they can see that they're actually being affected by that. That's my perspective now. So I'm now having been empathetic now towards that aspect and saying, if I want more men to come in, I want them to change. You want to see change? Well, you're going to have to accept them coming into that space, because that's the only way they're going to learn, by listening and being in a space. And that means also being careful about the way that we correct certain things. Like calling someone a dusty is really okay. It's a fine. You're right. There is a double standard. But the aspect is there are people in your community that when you're saying those things can't come approach you now. They can't come around you now, because you have that kind of opinion about that particular thing. So that's why I'm being very careful now as well. Like, okay, I want to talk to the men. I want to make sure I can also encourage them. I want to bring them in. That means I'm going to have to also be careful about the language I'm also using and the way that I'm using it. And I'm not talking about commentary. I'm talking about things like when we make jokes and insults. Those things we've always done that. But I'm now being careful for both men and women. I won't be doing that. You know what I'm saying to you? So that we can also make sure that we're sticking back to what we used to do, which is behavior and behavior only. I need to enforce that by going back to the normal where we were before. No more commentary about
I can't speak for
strictly
everybody,
behavior.
but
Yeah.
I know I don't have a problem here. I think I was one of the early ones who said, Kojo, your men's panel needs to be speaking to men. We need men to be a part of these conversations. I don't think we have a problem with them here. I do think what was jarring though is that the moment that the men came in, it was very obvious in a very man way. The men came in loud and they came in disruptive. And I don't think that's where I push back. We do need to make it so, be mindful of our speech, be mindful of everyone. But it's just very ironic and symbolic, that's the word again, of life, that as soon as men come into a space where women have been, they're like colonizers. You come in, you're literally like the pilgrimage. You come in and you're loud and you're disruptive. And that's not even a good way to create a cohesive environment. We shouldn't even know that you're here that way, like that loud. If it's a 90% women environment and you're coming in, cool, come in. But why is the 10% so effing loud? You're no different than the colonizers. You're colonizing Little Black Book. Like, just come in peace. And then, the environment will naturally change. It's cool. But it was, I just thought it was funny. I really did think it was funny. And there has always been men here, to be fair. There's always been men here. There's been straight men who like women. They've always been here. And I think they've been respectful. Do they push back and disagree? Sure. But yeah, the red pillars, I think they should stay where they're at. But if you want them here, they gonna come and they're gonna have a fight on their hands coming in with some of the stuff they were saying.
Hey, I mean, men are meant to be leaders, so you might see a few more men come into the space and they might take over. But hopefully there'll be men. Not even hopefully, I know they won't, because obviously I expect a certain kind of atmosphere when we set it. Those men will have to be in a particular dimension and atmosphere when they're in there. But I trust those men who did speak up, because some of them were feeling like they had no voice, and I understand that. You know what I'm saying too? Red pill, we called them out. If they're red pill, we always called them out, the red pills one. We've always called them out. You know what I'm saying too? I think the conversation with Karla wasn't necessarily red pill. If I'm going to answer, I went back through the messages and I went back through the ones on the live. They were not red pill. The comments that were actually being made, I went back through and I specifically went back through it so I would actually look for it. They weren't. They were disagreeing. And so actually, to be fair, I don't think they were red pill people. There are some red pill people that do come through though. There are some trolls that come through. No problem. We cancel them, we kick them out. But just because they disagree does not mean they're red pill. And I actually went back through. I went back through. See where I went back through. And I looked at the comments.
People in that live told Sean that he's wearing a skirt, Kojo. The same.
And those ones weren't commenting. The ones that were commenting on after are very different from the ones that were on the line.
I saw that same person in the live. Actually, that person, the direct person, because I got his picture, because I took a screenshot of that one because it was ignorant. The one that said about the wearing the skirt was also in the live. Now, maybe because they were all just bum rushing, they were pissing me off. I don't know what they were saying, but it was a whole lot of them and they were doing too much. I mean, even the women who tend to lean more towards your side are all agreeing. They came in and they did too god dog much, in my opinion.
I actually went through it. At the time when we were talking, there was only about 3 or 4 men. And they agreed or disagreed. Yeah, they're going to be loud because they're going to disagree. Anybody who disagrees with one of your points or my point, you always notice them. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just saying, I'm leaning towards there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the insults. That's what I care about. The commentary is not a commentary. I don't really care. I'm not fighting the commentary. It's just the insults and stuff like that. When we say that, for me personally, I don't want it anymore. Let's talk about behavior and focus specifically on behavior, including myself. I'm holding myself accountable to that space. No more of this dusty. No more of this thing. Let's focus on the actual behavior, calling out what it actually is. If we agree, we disagree. We disagree. It's fine. Not a problem. But let's leave it as that. Yeah. Yeah, Sean, you want to say something?
I love words. So, I have no problem with using words to explain things. So that's not an issue for me at all.
I think we've done a great job. I can't lie to you.
He's gonna get around the dusty. He's gonna call you.
No.
He's tolerant, but I don't really. anybody that's watched me for years, I don't really lean into this one's dusty and that. Yes, I
Literally,
will
you
not
don't.
pretend
It's me.
like
It's me and
I didn't
Seaway.
call David. I didn't call David a basement dweller. I did
Me and
because
Seaway.
for me, I thought that was an accurate depiction of where he resided.
Where he
But
dwelled.
if we want to
It's
put
me and Seaway
away
that keeps
from
in trouble.
the hurtfulness of the word, then I'll accept that and just say he lives at home with his parents. Now, if you're too fragile to deal with that, then maybe I need to pack it up and go into the comments.
Actually, if you don't recall, Sean, they were mad at me. Remember, they were mad at me because I wouldn't call him a dusty. I remember at the beginning of the season, I have not called David a dusty at all, and people said
Yeah,
I
you
switched
have
up.
mostly. I mean, listen, I think I don't want to be that either because then we do what they do, so which is why I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of energy fighting with you about what words I shouldn't use or not, because generally I don't call people out of their names, but I will be conscious so that I ensure that it just never happens.
Yeah, the last person I called a dusty was Gil, and I stand by that. And if he pulled up to the live today, I would tell him he was one, and before I take it back, I would add more to it. That's the last person that I called a dusty because it applied. I don't really feel like I called somebody dusty since then.
Yeah,
so.
and listen, I think I just what I don't want for you, and obviously this is your channel, so somebody can call me arrogant, but what I would hate to be is that people feel like they need to be coddled, especially men feel like they should be coddled when they come in here, because we don't grow by coddling. I didn't grow on this channel by being coddled. Nobody coddled me when I walked through this door. I got called out a lot of times, and guess what? Some of the things they were right about. Sometimes I go back and reflect on it. They called me Kevin Samuels Jr. and I railed against it, but that was right. Because there were some things that I was saying that came from him. So I just don't want us to just feel like we have to coddle them in order for them to come in. They should understand, hey, we're not going to intentionally disrespect you, but the behavior should be able to be highlighted, if somebody feels like they have enough evidence to call it out.
Jay said, can we call them pollen peddlers? Jay, please go away. And
today,
we're not talking about nobody on the panel. We didn't talk about Ethan. We were talking about people in the comments.
No, I mean, listen, look, I'm not saying we have to coddle men or coddle anybody. What I'm saying to you is let's have a level of respect for both parties now, because we clearly can't do it, right? As I'm talking about, as us as a group, as everybody including in us, in our family, right? Doesn't mean the panelists specifically, but everybody here. It means if you're doing it or not doing it, we're all a part of the group, right? And I'm saying that let's go back to what we used to do, which is focus specifically on behaviors, right? Let's focus on behaviors specifically, nothing else, right? Because now I'm saying that so that we don't get caught up in a thing, because that's how we used to do this when we were doing other reviews for TV shows, right? We'd be like, oh, I would say to you, listen, okay, let's leave someone's public appearance alone. Like if someone, you got no hair, like we said, let's leave that alone because it becomes painful. It's no longer about the behavior. It's all about behavior. So let's focus on behavior. That way we can agree and disagree, and it's strictly about behavior, nothing else. And
so what if their behavior is dusty?
There is ways to describe their behavior. There's ways to describe their behavior. Let's describe their behavior. You know what I mean? Because Dusty has a various explanations that has changed 3 or 4 times. I've heard it being explained.
That's why I gave it a 2-pronged test. I gave it a 2-pronged test.
You know what I mean? So I was saying let's stick to the behaviors part, right? So that's what I'm saying to you, so that people can then be able to agree, disagree. We can call that that one's safe. It's safe. We can call that out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
no, 100%. I think, listen, we did our little moratorium on Dusty, and then it came back again. So it is what it is. I'm saying, I want people to think differently. I've learned to just, if my philosophy, if it don't apply, I let it fly. Seaway said it earlier, chew the meat, spit out the bones. So I don't always personalize every time somebody says something, and I think that's, we also have to, move away from that. I think is a culture of just society. Just like we want to start punching the air and fighting because somebody says something that we don't like. If it's not me, if I don't think it just like you might say something, Kojo, and I just disagree. We might go back and forth a little bit, but at the end of the day gonna end. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna think the way I think, and some things you gonna think the way you think.
Well, now I don't need to
punch you in your jaw or try to come up with an insult for you because you don't agree with me or you say something I don't like. That's the part where I feel like That's where the low level is. Or the minute somebody says something, like you're on top of them. You know, my sentence is not even done. Sean's this and this is that. And this person, they don't know what they're talking about and they never do this and they never do that. It's like, relax, breathe. Did you breathe? You know, take a load from Karla, breathe, you know? You know, like it's going to be okay. You know, you're not going to agree with me. You're not going to agree with Kojo. You're not going to agree with Seaway. It's okay. It's just gonna be okay. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. Trust me. Tomorrow, your bills will be paid or not, depending on your situation. You know, whether you agree with my opinion or not. You know what I mean? Like, we are gonna be all right, all of us. You know, so I just want people to relax a little bit. Like, take in the information. Somebody says something you don't agree with. Kojo could say something. I'm gonna listen to him. Hear him out. I respect him.
Quick to tell me, they say, see where I normally agree with you and not on this one. I'd be like, okay, fair. That's it.
Yeah, I do. I am rah-rah sometimes because it does get frustrating when people are sometimes misunderstanding you on purpose. So that's when I get frustrated. So yeah, I have a right. I'm up here yapping for, what are we up here, 3 hours and 35 minutes? Yeah, I have a right to be frustrated. So yeah, you're going to see a range of emotions from me, but you as the commenter should be calm. Because you don't carry the same weight that we do as the panelists. We are coming up with ideas. We are figuring out how to articulate ourselves in sound bites and sometimes try to debate back and forth a point. So yes, sometimes I do get defensive. Hell yeah, I do. Because I'm defending my point and I'm trying to do so in a way that is clearly understood. So, you know, I think it's different. Like, people in the comments like, well, I can do what you could do. No, if you want to do what I do, the panel is here. There's boxes. So feel free to come up and see how you articulate yourself, how you make your points clean, how you're able to remain calm when people call you out your name, create narratives. Do it. I welcome it. I love it. I love when new people come on board. You know what I mean? Come through. And don't just come for one day. You know? Come three times a week for years. And let's see how calm you are. You're not going to be calm all the time because you're a human being and you get to have a range of emotions.
And see your name all in the chat afterwards. Talk about you.
Oh, and I welcome it, you know, and just like Kojo said, depending on the comment, I will respond. Depending on the comment, you will get deleted. And then next level, you will be blocked. I really don't like to block people because I like to, you know, I have a lot of free time these days. So I like to, you know, type away and explain things and give you a thesis in the hopes that you read it. So, you know, I'm likely to not block you. If I block you, that means you probably said something way out of bounds, you know, but usually I'll engage with you. We can go back and forth. You can tell me why you think what you think. You know, so I generally, and maybe that's my privilege, because as a man, it don't bother me what another man says about me or thinks about me, because it don't turn my water on every day. It don't get me excited. So if you don't like me or you don't like what I'm saying, you can disagree. It's not gonna agitate me. You know, it's gonna be okay.
So as you said that, fantastic. I think that sets a precedent, which is we as a panelist, as Sean I'm sure he would agree, and Seaway, we have to hold ourselves to a higher account. So we're going to focus on behaviors. And because we're going to do that, it makes it easier to spot when people are not here for the right things. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you as an audience member, if you find your messages getting deleted or you're getting blocked, it's more than likely because you've overstepped the boundaries. And what I will do is that before I go to bed tonight, I will change the guidelines on my chat. So when you come into chat, you actually see the guidelines. So if I'm holding them to that high esteem, the audience, you're also being held to that, because if you're going to critique or have a different point of view, which is fine, please have a different point of view. To myself, Seaway, Sean, we need different points of view. It's not an echo chamber, right? So if you have a different points of view, make it about the actual point. If you don't make it about the point and you're talking about how you don't like somebody, you don't like the top that they're wearing, you know what I'm saying to you, something that is just so not to do with the conversation, then when they block you, please don't message me, because I will not acknowledge. I will not have the time nor the energy. Okay? So keep it about a point. If you disagree with it, that's fine. Not a problem at all. That's what we're here for. We're here to be respectful, love each other, and have different points of view and grow. Right? That's how we're going to grow. So for the men out there, I will support you. But if you are going to be one of those people that are going to talk about things that are inconsequential to the conversation, and it's about how you like or don't like somebody, it's a waste of time. You will be well, it won't even be me. I might not even see your message because it might get deleted. You know what I'm saying to you? So just keep it focused on the behavior or the point that the person has made. If they've made a point, talk about the point, and then that will be how we're able to move forward as well. I think it's been productive. I think it's been productive.
I think it's
You
a
know
good
what I mean?
idea.
You
We
know what I
can
mean?
thank
Thank you,
Karla.
Steve.
Let's thank
Yeah.
Karla. The
Look at Carla.
Carla.
Look at Carla helping our channel already.
Open the door for this conversation. But I'm so glad we had it, Kojo, and also D-Way,
Go for it, bro.
because the comments were getting crazy. I was about to be like, Kojo, we need to do a segment just for some of these comments that, people are making, and especially moreover in the afterlives, because it's just starting to it's getting out of hand, and it's like reeking of entitlement of people feeling like they can just call us any name and tell us what to do. It's like, come on, now you're showing up triggered because like why are you so triggered that I have a different opinion than Kojo, and I'm comfortable expressing it. You know what I mean? Like, you can disagree with me, but don't be triggered and feel like you got to call me out my name. I'm bothering you that much? No, don't let me bother you. Don't let me be the thing that stresses you out. Don't do it. Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn the TV off, like Kendrick says. Turn it off.
And I just think because we have such an open space, I think people feel comfortable being open with their opinions. But sometimes people get too comfortable, and I think it shows. There should be some respect in the way that you give your opinion. And also, we have to remember that parasocial relationships are real. And I know a lot of us, we see each other all the time, and so we feel like we know each other. And I get that. It's normal to feel that way. But people also have to remember, like, just because you're seeing people up on the YouTube, you don't really know them. And if you start trying to fill in the gaps with very odd assumptions about people's lives and stuff like that, you have to look at that, because it's like, that's probably not even the truth. And so, yeah, I think that's another thing. But I wish Kojo didn't tell y'all what I'd be up to, because I like when y'all come at me. Just feel comfortable coming at me. I like when
They're
people
gonna block you. Do not do it.
So C-Way, because we don't want you, because you have a thriving TikTok business, and we don't want you distracted by folks saying unnecessary things in the comments. We want you to be able to thrive and continue to get your brand deals, and continue to get your opportunities over there.
Amen. Well, I don't go back and forth over there, and I don't go back and forth over here. So I told people, be careful when you mention my name. Now, I be saying that. People think it's just cap. So, if you're going to at me, just keep it cute. And if you disagree with me, not a problem.
I have had to try to talk C-Way off a ledge several times. And we can thank my new anti-patriarchy stance that she's probably listened to me a couple of times. Because prior to that, she would have added more before she took it away.
Look,
definitely would have given the backhand.
The patriarchy more than I do. Hell, I don't even be fighting the patriarchy that much.
Yep. I'll be like, C-Way, a bridge too far. She's like, what? Aren't you telling me?
No, listen, this has been a good conversation. I think, listen, I know we didn't finish the video off because I know time's going to go, but I think this has been a really good conversation. I hope that everybody who's here got to see and witness how, disagreements can happen, but at the same time, respect can still go on. You know what I mean? Like, I love having C-Way, Sean on my channel. And I want to be very frank. I'll be very frank, because I want to help some people here, man or woman, because of the work that I've been doing for the past 2-3 years around attachment styles, everything like that. For me personally, as much as I love disagreements, when I feel like disagreements are getting to a certain point, I start signing out. I start signing out, meaning that I just start like distancing myself. You know what I mean? But because I've spent so much time with C-Way and Sean, I want to say this: I feel a sense of trust. And this is something that I know that as I've been working with my therapist, and I've also been talking to clients about this, that is very difficult, especially for those who are dismissive avoidance. You probably know this feeling very well. When it gets into an argument space, you may, if you're not seeing eye to eye, even if you don't see eye to eye by the end, you're feeling like you want to run away, or you just want to be like, you know what, I'm doing my own thing. But I think for those of us who have that kind of attachment style, you get to witness myself, Sean, C-Way, Jay, be able to have these conversations where, thank you, Sean, where we get to discuss and sometimes disagree, And then what that allows is for also as well for me to be able to like, hey, they and honest truth, they have not abandoned me. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds kind of wild, but this is honestly sometimes the way I feel. Sometimes I'm like, one more argument, and these niggas are gonna leave me alone. They're gonna take their bag and they're gonna leave the shadow and leave me alone. Like, see, we're gonna be. I had enough. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I do feel that because I know that's my attachment style. Like, I know that's coming, or it's like if we're having these disagreements, maybe they don't like you the way you think you do. You know what I'm saying? I start thinking these things. This is generally how I feel at points sometimes, but I'm learning it and I'm growing and I'm seeing it differently. That as I'm having these discussions, we don't always agree, we don't always see eye to eye, but it doesn't have to mean that you go away or they go away. It's just a case of, okay, we disagree. That's it. And the roof, as someone said to me, the roof didn't fall in, which is often how I feel a lot of times. But, you know, you guys are really helping me through that. So I appreciate that, man. You know what I mean? I don't want to cry on the panel, but, you know, I appreciate
it. Well, you helped me too. I think I have similar. I don't be on the run like you, Kojo. You be on the run. But I definitely gotta, if you ain't effing with me, I ain't effing with you. I got that bad. So, but I think the more you go through things with people, the more, like you said, you know, you have less fear and anxiety about they're just gonna up and leave, you know? So I definitely have that too. So I can relate to that. But that's why I don't be worried about it. I'm like, you know, even if we get to hooping and hollering, I'm like, okay, they tripping today. We be talking tomorrow.
Listen, where we are 2025, these little spats we having are nothing. 2022, 2023. Woo!
Oh, yeah. There were a lot, yeah.
More 2022 and then a little into 20, but 2021.
Ooh, we was hot. We was hot.
This is nothing. This is, I think, to your point, you know, Seaway, this is like, we're like family at this point. You know, we've been doing this, and sometimes, yes, you will see hubris from me, a little arrogance, you know, when I respond in the comments, or sometimes people hear me talk, because we've been doing this for years. This panel has thrived, and we came into the exit of another OG panel, which was well regarded. And we came and we staked our ground, you know, as the core four. I want to be clear, not to eliminate anybody else, but myself, Seaway, Jay put in work. You know what I mean? Like, we've put in work to be a part of this channel and this community. So ain't no way, you know, somebody that's just tuned in and is going to think they're going to try to sow division amongst us, because that's just not, we are friends in real life. We got this man, you know, not just because of us, but I want to say because of us, to fly over here and spend time in the US when he was never going to do that. You know what I mean? And that is love. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is beyond a YouTube channel. This is family, and we care about each other. So, you know, ain't nothing you're going to say to me that's going to do nothing but make me want to probably curse you out behind the scenes, you know, and I'll do that. You know, I don't curse typically unless I'm being funny or stupid, but, you know, generally in speaking to other people, I try to avoid that. But, you know, yeah. We love you, Kojo. You know,
we do.
This is family here. You know, we all grew up to here, learn so much from you, you know, please. Never that, you know, never that. These conversations need to be had. I think they're super important that we talk through these things, because that's how we grow. We learn, we hear each other's perspective. You know, oh, now I know why Kojo does this. Now I know why Seaway does that, and so on and so forth. Yeah,
so true. So true. They said a whole tour. It was a whole tour, and that was a time to be had.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Listen, we can't even tell the truth. You know what I mean?
No,
it's just a great time.
Nice conversation needs to learn something from us. You know what I'm saying? Hey, no shade but shade.
And not talking about 2022. They acting like they know what was going on. We kept it cute. We
knew some of the plot. They didn't know.
Came to work like we was getting paid still.
Oh my days!
We just kept it going.
Oh yeah, no, it was needed. The conversation was needed. You're right, Sean, and Seaway as well. You know, and so I appreciate. I love you too, both of you. You know what I mean? No, I'm not even going to say no pause. I'm going to say nothing else. I love you both. You know what I'm saying? With my fullest heart. You know what I mean? Y'all managed to get me all the way from here to America, so y'all did something. I don't know if it's juju, but we discussed that.
Chicago, I feel a way about it. Actually, ain't nothing.
You know what?
Chicago.
You know,
it ain't even just that? You. It's none of you guys.
See,
I've been to LA. I've been to New York 5 million times.
What
I haven't made it to London.
But what state is that again?
It's Illinois, but no one cares about that. They just call it Chicago.
Those 3 letters are telling me something. I don't know. My spirit doesn't know if it's
Your
really for
spirit ain't telling you crap. the stuff that you were doing in Atlanta in trap houses, you need not talk.
That's right. The trap houses know about me. They don't.
Jesus Christ! When he got to that motel by the airport, good Lord,
I was like,
That was a good motel. You know, do you like it?
That was a horror. You know what? That's why
y'all don't know about the motels. Good motel.
Because I booked all his like stays. He
don't know about
went
the
on the
motels.
slide. He was like,
I'm gonna go there for you.
I'm taking his 4-star.
I'm gonna do it my way.
When I put them to that hotel, wait, Kojo, what the hell? He was like, listen, I'm only staying here for a few days. You know, I'm in and out. I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro.
That motel was an amazing motel, guys. I don't know why they're hating on it. It was an amazing motel. Okay, it wasn't even a motel, it was a hotel, but it was like hotel. You know what I mean? Hotel Amel.
It was a one-story building with the exit. The door was on the outside of the building. That's a motel.
Hey, listen, easy exits. You have to think about this. I was thinking about how I'm going to exit. I'm new to the country. I think about easy exits.
I was so confused. I was like, why is he moving through Atlanta like this? I was so confused.
And by the grace of God, he made it. He made it. And no, Kojo never does not drink at all. Never, nothing, no substances whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't drink at all. Yeah, I just go into inns. It's an inn. That's what they call it. It's an inn. It is an inn. It had the inn in the name, so it's an inn. Yes. See, if it was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. You know what I'm saying to you? If he can be born in major.
You had a spot in Jamaica. Oh, but remember, I missed my flight, so I didn't even know that you had. You
missed Jamaica.
You had a spot in Jamaica before you.
I had the first day. The first day. Yeah, I went into
the strip.
You gonna stay in a flea motel?
Hey. I mean, that was a scary place. I can't lie. I've seen everything on that strip. I'm telling you. So, but you know, what a time.
Yes.
Not the Red Roof and the Ramada Inn. I'm crying.
Hey, Ramada sounds all right. I don't know if it was that one. I can't remember what it was called. Was it Holiday Inn?
It wasn't a Holiday Inn.
No, Holiday Inn is nice.
I mean, Holiday Inn is not that bad.
It was something else. Something with a sunny logo, I think it was, wasn't it, right?
I don't think it was a chain, if you ask me. It was the Bates Motel. You know, most of the times the hotels that are right off the
airport.
He was by the airport.
Yeah. And he was by the
Days In.
Not like
I think it's Days In.
La Quinta is okay. You can stay at a La Quinta.
Well, wasn't Crystal trying to put you in a trap house? And
it's Days In by Wyndham. It's not that bad. You guys are making it bad. Days In was quality. It's got quality.
That must have been a Days In that needed to be under construction because it was
a little bit old.
More like
it was a little bit old. It was a little bit old. It was a Days In by the highway. Yes, before after the airport. It was a little bit old, but the bed was very comfortable. I can tell you that, and the space was spacious.
We won't talk about the bed.
Spacious enough to run. So
I won't because I wasn't there for anybody starts, whatever.
Right. But we start spreading more rumors.
Exactly.
Where we have more secrets.
Here we go. That's gonna be our secret that gets blackmailed.
They're gonna call us all out.
Seaway trying to bring somebody else out the closet.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
that's another rule. I'm not bringing nobody out that closet, long as they don't come on the show playing around. I'm gonna try to leave people in that closet next season.
You hear that, Kojo?
Look at the growth. Look at the growth. I'm loving it.
I said I'm gonna try.
You're trying. The fact you're trying. That's where we have to start from. You know what I mean? That's where we start from. I know people are watching the replay. If you're watching this, listen, I know we went off the scales, but listen, you got to see some conflict resolution. I know you didn't think you needed it, but you do. That's the rest of us. Okay, you learned some conflict resolution and seeing some ways how people can agree.
Did they learn?
They learned. They
did.
They learned. They saw how we handled it.
The tone in the chat has definitely lightened up.
The live chat ain't never the problem though. Well, we'll
see. We'll find out when the after effects goes. You know what I'm saying to you. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll chop out the last part. You know what I mean? I'll just have the clip where it says Days In after.
Leave it all on the floor, as they say. Leave it all on the floor.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it on the floor. They were expecting to come and see Karla, and then they got a lot of other things, but fantastic. Anyway, listen, audience, it's been
Practitioner doesn't believe that we're going to change, and actually, she's probably right. But
we are committed to seeing some changes in all of us.
She knew I was lying as soon as I said I was going to leave folks in that closet. So that's how she knew we started.
You're gonna try, Seaway. Trust me. I believe in you. Now you've said it. The Holy Spirit gonna convict you. Watch. He gonna prod at you.
I did it this season though. I left
and exactly.
Yeah.
See, I'm seeing growth. That's what I'm trying to say. The Holy Spirit gonna definitely touch you.
I broke that glass closet door down. Cut it out.
I sure did. I didn't say nothing. I left everybody where they at.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah, listen, what did they say? They say the quest to perfection doesn't mean you'll always get there, right? So
exactly.
You know?
We're moving. That's what I'm meaning. We're moving. You know what I'm saying to you? I had a dream about you, Sean, actually, yesterday. I'll tell you later. If you can give us the benediction, Sean, that would be very helpful.
I had a dream about Coco Jones, so hopefully that dream.
That's why I had a dream about you, because y'all asked me to leave Coco alone.
My dreams. Her new song she has out. I was like, ooh, is this the forecasting? Or maybe I went to sleep watching her on Shay Shay, Club Shay Shay.
Y'all doing a lot.
All right, guys. So I think we learned a fair bit of a lot tonight. I think we had some great dialogue and some good conversations. I think some of the notes we took away from the Karla Juan story is be true to who you are. Especially for folks like Karla who get it, who see situations and are perceptive. You know, trust your instinct, trust yourselves, because often when you don't trust yourselves, you trust the wrong person, and then you allow for things to happen that shouldn't, right? And then for Juan, be who you are. You know, if you tell your secret, you don't have to worry about the secret being blackmailed or held over your head. Be true to who you are. Be comfortable. Be confident that no matter what, people will accept you. People will love you for who you are. And if they don't, they never did. Right. So if the person doesn't love you after you tell your secret, then they never did. So don't, for those of us that are holding anything, don't hold it in. Don't be scared of who you are. Be bold. Speak your truth. Talk about things. Be comfortable. And be who you are, because the people that love you will always love you. Yes, Gia, to thine own self be true, 100%. And last, you got to see some great dialogue from us and some feedback, right? For the audience, we love you. You drive us, you make us think differently and to share with you each and every day. But I think we learned a golden rule. We are here for you to listen to and take our advice and sometimes disagree. But in that disagreement, please don't get it confused that the door is open for disrespect. We should be respected. We should be appreciated. But you can disagree. You can always disagree, but don't disrespect. That is not allowed. Back to you, Coach.
I like that. Thank you very much, Deacon. We appreciate you as always. Seaway, I appreciate you too. Thank you as well. It's good. We have to. We're here to create content to make sure that we are touching both men and women, and I'm loving the fact that you guys also push back, because it means that we also make sure that we're not going in one direction only. We're able to touch different bases as well, so it's very much appreciated as well, and it's been a good whirlwind of the last 5 years or so, and we continue to have more in the name of Jesus. So audience members, thank you so much for showing up. Again, remember, keep it cute in the chat, in the comment section afterwards. If it's not about what we said, if it's not about the points that are made, they probably will block you and delete you. Now, I will have nothing else to do apart from laugh. So please keep it about the comments. And if you, for yourself, disagree with something or agree, just make sure you're talking about the points, nothing else, okay? Leave Sean's strong beard alone, okay? All right? I know it's looking strong right now, looking healthy. Leave that beard alone, okay? All right? All right, mine will get there, but I'll probably have a few more years on me. But listen, audience, we appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded, and we will see you, I think, sometime tomorrow, because we've got men's panel. So we're having the first men's panel, talking about men. What was the thing, Sean? It was... I sent you
Anthony Mackie. Is that the one we're going to cover? Yes, masculinity in our modern era.
Yes, masculinity in our modern. I love that. That's a title. Masculinity in our modern era. You know what I mean? At this point, I should just let Sean host the men's panel because so he can lead it, so he can send us on the wild goose chase. So I'll be ready for it. I'll actually I'll let you host it actually, Sean. To be honest, I think you'll be powerful if you host it. You can lead it. But yeah, listen, audience, we're gonna see you tomorrow for the men's panel. Usually at the same time that we have Married at First Sight, so it'll be 8 p.m. So we'll have that at that time. The men's panel. Won't go any longer than 2 hours. I don't want it to be any longer than that. It's too long. But yeah, audience, thank you so much. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And listen, it's all love and peace and respect out there. Okay? But don't beg.
Don't beg. It's disgusting.